In the world of the hero's continent, a massive war is raging. The various races have united, riding dragons and fielding powerful beasts in a desperate struggle against the forces of the Demon Queen. But the Demon Queen's army is overwhelmingly powerful. Her legions of monsters roar across the battlefield, a seemingly unstoppable tide that crushes all in their path. One by one, the other races fall, leaving only humanity to resist. However, the human empire was plagued by internal strife and rebellions. Their internal conflicts caused their defenses to crumble from within, leading to their ultimate defeat at the hands of the demon army. And with that, the strongest demon queen in history, Elizabeth, achieved complete and total domination, securing her position as the new ruler of the world. In the ruins of the human empire, a lone priest, Barrow stands before the traitorous human prince, Wis Malfoy, as Demon Queen Elizabeth looks on from her throne. Barrow glares at her defiantly, proclaiming that she hasn't truly won. He declares that in the future, a legendary hero will rise and defeat her completely. Before he can finish, Wis Malfoy silences him with a swift, brutal kick, sending the old priest flying. Standing over the fallen priest, the human prince, Wis Malfoy, coldly tells his former teacher to get things straight. Her Majesty isn't asking for an opinion, she's giving an order. From the ground, Barrow curses him, calling him a traitor to the human race who killed his own father. He laments that he once cultivated Malfoy, believing he was the very hero from the prophecy. Malfoy scoffs at the sentiment. He tells Barrow that since he misses his useless father so much, he'll let him join him. As he speaks, his arm begins to gruesomely transform into a demonic claw. But just as the prince is about to deliver the final blow, Demon Queen Elizabeth appears behind him, commanding him to stay his hand. At his queen's command, Malfoy's monstrous claw stops just inches from Barrow face. Wis Malfoy immediately kneels before his queen. Elizabeth, however, seems intrigued by the priest's final words, questioning him about the prophecy of a hero defeating her. Now in her full demonic form, Demon Queen Elizabeth looks down on the kneeling prince and demands an explanation for the lowly human's words. She stares at him with cold, menacing eyes, warning him that she has 1,000 different ways to make him suffer a fate far worse than death. Barrow then reveals the prophecy in full. When the prophesied hero pulls the holy sword from the stone platform in the main hall, it will be the day the demon race's reign comes to an end. He vows never to reveal its location. The focus shifts to the legendary blade itself, the Holy Sword Alpha. Elizabeth approaches the sword, which is embedded in a stone right before her. She muses on the legend, questioning if pulling this sword truly grants someone the right to challenge her. With a curious expression, her clawed hand closes around the hilt of the holy sword. To the absolute shock of Barrow and Wis Malfoy, she pulls the sword from the stone with no effort at all. "How interesting," she says, a smile playing on her lips. With the holy sword now in her possession, she smirks confidently. She's not afraid of the prophecy. In fact, she looks forward to the hero's arrival. The first year under Elizabeth's reign passes. Her legions of demonic and human soldiers stand guard, a symbol of her established power. The second year of her reign comes and goes, showing the new, unchallenged order she has built. The third year of her reign ends, with the fortress standing resolute under the night sky, a symbol of her seemingly eternal rule. As the fourth year arrives, bringing winter's snow, a sense of routine and complacency has settled in. Some demon guards drink openly, the long, quiet years under the Demon Queen's rule stretching on without incident. The fifth year passes, the seasons change, leaves fall and snow covers the ground, but still nothing changes. The hero does not appear. And just like that, time flies. A huge celebration marks the 15th year under Demon Queen Elizabeth's reign. Surprisingly, under the Demon Queen's absolute rule, all past inequalities amongst the races were abolished. Everyone was able to live in peace and harmony, leading to a thriving and flourishing continent where a lizardman can rush to a casting audition without fear. In fact, the peace was so beloved that a strange new faction emerged, an anti-hero alliance. They feared the prophesied hero would destroy their newfound harmony, and thus, they resolutely rejected his arrival. The scene shifts to the throne room of the Demon Empire, formerly the Human Empire. Queen Elizabeth sits upon her throne, attended by her council of chancellors, who represent all the major races. Looking utterly bored with the peace and stability, Elizabeth lounges on her throne and asks her council, "So, do you have any news on the prophesied hero?" The chancellor of the elf race, a graceful woman named Twila, reports that her people have searched everywhere but found no information. The gruff dwarven chancellor, Heimerdinger, adds that while dwarves aren't good at gathering information, reports from weapon stores show no suspicious activity. The chancellor of the human race, a philosopher-like man named Aristotle, confidently states that even if the hero did appear, it would be in vain. They need not worry about him at all. However, the horned chancellor of the demon race, Jim, whispers to the newly joined Aristotle. He explains that Her Majesty isn't afraid, she actually wants the hero to come, and has been diligently researching ancient magic and war tactics in preparation for his arrival. The hulking beastman Chancellor Mogul chimes in, boasting that as long as Her Majesty wills it, she could annihilate the entire continent in a split second. The hero is no threat. Chancellor Twyla scoffs, blaming the whole situation on that idiot, Barrow's prophecy. She considers it nonsense and believes everyone is fortunate to be ruled by the queen. As far as she's concerned, the hero can be left to die. Her sentiment is echoed throughout the empire, as protesters hold signs with a crossed-out character for hero and chant to reject him. The crowd passionately continues their chant, rejecting the hero who was once prophesied to be their savior. One of the chancellors sighs with annoyance, Speak of Barrow, and he shall appear. And indeed, leading the charge is none other than Barrow Smith, the former high priest. In a bizarre twist of fate, the man who made the prophecy is now the president of the Demon Queen Fan Club and the Anti-Prophesied Hero Association, clad in his holy robes, floral shorts, and flip-flops. Suddenly, a powerful surge of purple magic envelops the protesting priest. The magic slams into Barrow Smith, knocking his hat off and sending him flying backwards with a comical wheeze. He is dragged before Queen Elizabeth herself. She leans in, her expression menacing, and demands he explain himself. Where is that prophesied hero? With his face comically squashed by the magical pressure, Barrow stammers that prophecies aren't always true, especially when the target, like Her Majesty, far exceeds any expectation. Trying to curry favor, Wis Malfoy steps forward, agreeing that applying such a stupid prophecy to Her Majesty is a great offense. He claims to have some new findings on the matter. But Elizabeth has no patience for his sycophantic display. She cuts him off with a powerful backhanded slap that sends him spinning. With a look of utter disgust, she dismisses him with a single cold command, "Get lost." Clutching his bruised and swollen cheek, a humiliated Wis Malfoy can only bow his head and reply, "Understood." Frustrated with their incompetence, Elizabeth unleashes a powerful blast of magic, shouting, "A bunch of trash," as the energy tears through the throne room floor. The blast sends Barrow Smith flying, embedding him high in the wall. With her council silenced and the comical priest stuck in the wall, Elizabeth finally has a moment to herself. Elizabeth's inner monologue reveals her true motivation. She declares that she, the king, has reached the peak of the world. Now, she waits for the legendary hero to challenge her, so that he may become a stepping stone to her eternal fame. She reflects on her preparations. She has studied all the ancient magic books of the continent, and after countless hardships, created the ultimate doomsday magic, just to wait for his challenge. Her frustration boils over as she looks out into the world. After all her preparation and all her waiting, the hero is nowhere to be seen. "Where are you?" she shouts into the emptiness. The camera focuses on the holy sword, a symbol of a prophecy that has yet to be fulfilled, resting in its pedestal. Done with waiting, Elizabeth makes a decision. A determined look crosses her face as she approaches the holy sword. "Well," she says, "since you aren't coming to me." Her chancellors look on in horror, realizing what she intends to do. They cry out in protest, begging her to stop. "Then I'll come to you," she screams, unleashing a torrent of her demonic power. With a furious expression, she pours all of her strength and frustration into her next action. She grabs the holy sword, defying the prophecy and seizing her destiny with her own hands, channeling her immense demonic energy into the blade. The force of her power blows her chancellors back. Twyla cries out in disbelief that the Demon King is actually going to pull out the holy sword, while the others scramble for cover. A massive beam of light erupts from the sword, a combination of holy power and demonic energy, tearing through the throne room's ceiling and shooting into the heavens. When the light fades, the throne room is in shambles, the pedestal shattered. Elizabeth stands victorious, holding the holy sword, which now rightfully belongs to her. She looks at the blade with a smug and triumphant expression. He who said that only the legendary hero can pull it out, she mocks. Using the sword as a catalyst, she casts a powerful scrying spell. Her vision tears across the land, seeking out the one person who has eluded her for 15 years. Her spell hones in on its target, revealing a small, peaceful-looking cottage and farm, isolated from the rest of the world. A sinister, knowing smile spreads across Elizabeth's face. She has found him. "Yo," she purrs, "so you're hiding here." She begins to cast another spell, her hand glowing with a powerful and ominous red aura. This is abyss magic. Wis Malfoy can only watch in shock as his queen prepares a massive, forced teleportation spell, engulfing herself in a pillar of red light and a complex magic circle. Despite his earlier humiliation, his loyalty is unwavering. He desperately reaches out, pleading with her, "Please, please, let me continue to serve you by your side." But he is too late. His hand passes through the light as she begins to dematerialize, her form dissolving into the teleportation spell. His hand closes on nothing, a single thread of red magic snapping between his fingers as she vanishes completely. Left alone in the throne room, a devastated Whis Malfoy looks at his empty hand, muttering her name with pathetic devotion, "My master, Elizabeth." The scene shifts, showing the destination of her spell, a small, isolated patch of land floating peacefully amongst the clouds, known only as the Newbie Village. And here, for the first time, we meet him, a young man in simple clothes and a straw hat, wiping the sweat from his brow after a hard day's work. But why is the legendary hero living such a simple life? This is the legendary hero, Lai Ping. With a hoe over his shoulder and a look of pure bliss, he sighs contentedly, "Farming, it's so peaceful." It seems the prophesied savior of the world has absolutely no interest in his destiny, preferring a quiet life instead. A flashback reveals why. His name is Lai Ping, and in his old world, he was just an ordinary office worker living a dull life. Standing on a crowded train, he explains that he wasn't fond of games or anime. His only pleasure was watching his favorite short videos on the way to work. Instead of epic battles or fantasy worlds, he watched videos teaching the correct way of fertilizing different types of soil. He watched cooking tutorials showing the entire process of making luisiphon, starting from pickling sour bamboo shoots. He watched simple, slice-of-life videos about people helping animals, like a man who found a rabbit with heatstroke and took it to the river to cool off. Looking up from his phone with a yearning expression, he would think to himself, "I'm so envious. If only I could live like this too." Now, in this new world, his dream has unexpectedly come true. In a world teeming with dragons, our protagonist, Lai Ping, stands defiantly, armed not with a sword, but a pistol, hinting at a future far different from the past he remembers. But before all that, he was just an ordinary person. He recalls the jarring moment of transition, finding himself suddenly transported to this new world while on his daily commute, a look of pure confusion on his face. Under the guidance of a newbie system, he began to learn the basic survival skills. Contrary to what one might expect, he found this pastoral life to be a welcome change, feeling healthier and more fulfilled than his previous life as a worker. Just as he was settling in, a system notification popped up. It informed him that his newbie training period was over, and he had met all the conditions to leave the newbie village and start his real adventure. Lai Ping was taken aback. He had grown to love his peaceful life. Sweating with anxiety, he questioned the system, asking why he had to leave when things were perfectly fine as they were. The system elaborated on the grand destiny that awaited him: to meet new people, learn sword and magic, become a legendary hero, and ultimately kill the Demon King. But Lai Ping had no interest in such a violent path. He protested, stating clearly that he didn't want to kill any Demon King and simply wished to continue living peacefully where he was. The system was firm. It declared that his personal wishes were irrelevant. Killing the Demon King was the player's designated mission, and he had no choice but to start his adventure. It grew more insistent, bombarding him with warnings that the Demon King would only grow more difficult to defeat the longer he delayed. It tempted him with promises of treasures and all kinds of encounters, repeatedly urging him to start his adventure. Despite the system's nagging, Lai Ping remained resolute. He realized that besides pestering him, the system couldn't actually force him to do anything. He defiantly chose his peaceful existence, saying, "To hell with what Demon King, I just want to live like this forever." His sanctuary was made possible by a special time barrier. This barrier not only kept the newbie village safely hidden, but also altered the perception of time, allowing a day to feel much longer, giving him ample time for his various activities. And so his peaceful days continued. He spent his time farming the land, steadily gaining points and leveling up his skills in his own quiet way. He also honed his skills in hunting, venturing into the nearby woods to track and shoot game, with each successful hunt adding to his growing experience. His talents weren't limited to the outdoors. He practiced forging, patiently crafting furniture and tools to make his home more comfortable. And in moments of quiet contemplation, he would meditate, finding inner peace while simultaneously accumulating more points from the system he so actively ignored. He knew nothing of swords or magic, and he didn't care. Through the points earned from his simple tasks, he slowly built his ideal pastoral home from scratch. But that peace wasn't destined to last forever. One day, the system finally reached its breaking point. It unleashed a tirade, cursing him for his lazy, farm-obsessed life. "How is this a legendary hero at all?" it screamed, its various assistance functions rendered useless. "I hate it." I hope you die soon by the Demon King." And then, just like that, the system suddenly crashed and disappeared, leaving the once interactive world silent. Lai Ping's reaction to the silence was one of pure bliss. With the constant nagging finally gone, he could only look out at his field and say, "Nice." After another busy day of work, his stomach rumbled. He took off his straw hat, feeling the satisfying pangs of hunger. He noticed that his pile of firewood seemed to be running low. Deciding to be proactive, he planned to go and prepare some more. A sudden realization struck him. In his haste earlier, he had forgotten to bring his favorite axe, de zhuang, back from the woods after chopping wood in the morning. As he pondered this, a strange phenomenon caught his eye. He looked up, confused, as the sky began to fill with an ominous, swirling red energy. A feeling of dread washed over him as he stared at the sky. A sudden downpour was the last thing he needed right now. He panicked, thinking, no way, not at this time. But the storm wasn't just rain. From the swirling vortex of red energy, a figure descended, crackling with immense power. It was Elizabeth, the Demon Queen, and she had finally found the hero she had been searching for. With a confident smirk, the Demon Queen Elizabeth announces her victory, her voice booming through the turbulent sky. "I found you, the legendary hero." Her triumphant expression quickly fades into bewilderment. The legendary hero, instead of preparing for battle, is in a full-blown panic about something else entirely. "It's going to rain heavily all of a sudden," he screams, "my clothes and dried fish." Ignoring the cataclysmic arrival of the world's most powerful being, Lai Ping breaks into a desperate sprint, his only mission to save his belongings from the impending downpour. From her vantage point in the sky, the mighty Demon Queen can only watch in stunned silence. The prophesied hero, her fated rival, is a tiny figure scurrying to his cottage, utterly oblivious to her grand entrance. She is left completely speechless. In a peaceful newbie village, a young man named Lai Ping has just returned with his groceries, relieved that his dried fish and sausages are safe. He cherishes this simple, quiet life he has built for himself. Suddenly, a small electronic pet dog appears, barking energetically. This is Wang Kai, Lai Ping's loyal companion in his secluded life. Noticing the darkening sky, Lai Ping calls out to his pet, urging him to stop playing and come inside before it starts to rain. But Wang Kai continues to bark excitedly, running around in the open field, seemingly unaware of the approaching storm. Just as he's about to head inside, Lai Ping freezes, a flicker of surprise on his face as he senses an unusual presence. He looks up to see a small, dark figure hovering in the purple sky. Still trying to maintain his facade of an ordinary person, he casually asks Wang Kai what that strange thing could be. The figure descends, revealing herself to be the stunning and powerful Demon Queen, Elizabeth. With an air of absolute superiority, she looks down on him, annoyed that he would refer to her as a mere thing. Lai Ping immediately panics, putting on an act of a flustered commoner. He apologizes profusely, thinking to himself how impossible this is. The newbie village was supposed to be completely safe from such powerful beings. Unconvinced by his act, Elizabeth decides to test his identity. She gathers a ball of crackling energy in her hand, intending to verify if he is truly the hero from the prophecy. Without warning, she unleashes a blast of energy. It misses Lai Ping, but completely obliterates the fish and sausages he worked so hard to get. He can only watch in shock. A wave of shock and disbelief washes over Lai Ping's face as his precious food is destroyed before his eyes. Elizabeth watches his reaction with a detached curiosity, seemingly underwhelmed by his response to her display of power. As another of Elizabeth's attacks flies towards him, a golden sword materializes out of thin air, deflecting the blow with a series of sharp, swirling movements. Lai Ping stares in utter astonishment as the legendary Holy Sword Alpha flies into his hand, its hilt landing firmly in his grasp. The one thing that could expose his identity has just appeared. Holding the sacred weapon, Lai Ping's demeanor shifts. The facade of the simple villager falls away, replaced by the reluctant resolve of a chosen hero. In a moment of comedic panic, Lai Ping's mind races, comically imagining multiple swords flying into his hands as he loses control of the situation. His thoughts clear and he understands. His peaceful life is over. The Holy Sword Alpha has recognized him, and there can be no mistake about his destiny now. Elizabeth smirks. She recognizes the sword's power, but senses that Lai Ping's own magical ability is pitifully low. She wonders if he could be hiding his true strength. Done with the games, Elizabeth unleashes her immense power. She declares herself the strongest demon queen in history and vows to completely obliterate the hero standing before her. True terror grips Lai Ping. His greatest fear has come true. The demon queen has found him, even in this remote village he never planned to leave. As Wang Kai growls defensively at the demon queen, Lai Ping desperately shouts at his dog to be quiet, terrified of provoking the immensely powerful enemy any further. Elizabeth summons 3 massive magic circles in the sky, preparing to cast a devastating spell from her abyss magic repertoire. Below, Lai Ping braces for the impact, sword in hand. She unleashes the cataclysmic spell, Extinction. A colossal wave of destructive energy descends from the heavens, threatening to wipe out everything in its path. In that final moment, a stream of system data floods Lai Ping's mind. He finally understands. Just as the system foretold, his meeting with the Demon Queen was inevitable, even if he hid away in the newbie village forever. A sense of calm washes over him as he accepts his inescapable fate. He lowers his guard and lets the holy sword fall to the ground. As Elizabeth's spell descends, Lai Ping simply stands there with his sword on the ground, Wang Kai barking beside him. He has seemingly given up all hope of fighting back. He thinks to himself, I've been trying to live as a newbie noob, but the final boss has come knocking. What else can I do besides accept my fate? Then a strange, knowing smile spreads across his face. He turns back towards his small house, looking almost content with the situation. He walks towards his front door, thinking he has no regrets after the happy times he's had here. He is ready to let his life and his home return to zero. And with that, he calmly steps inside and closes the door, leaving himself and his house to face the full force of the Demon Queen's attack. Elizabeth watches, completely baffled and increasingly irritated. What was the meaning of that arrogant smile? From her perspective, she recalls his final, taunting smile as he said, "Come at me with all you've got." It wasn't surrender, it was a challenge. The audacity of it sends her into a rage. Unbelievable, arrogant bastard, she screams, infuriated by his dismissive attitude. Fueled by her anger, she pours more power into her spell, determined to wipe that arrogant smirk off the face of the planet. The empowered extinction spell descends with unstoppable force, aimed directly at the small, quiet house where the hero is hiding. But just as the spell is about to hit, the seemingly ordinary pet dog, Wang Kai, springs into action. Its electronic eyes flash with purpose. Complex data streams across Wang Kai's visor as it instantly analyzes the composition and trajectory of Elizabeth's magical attack. The enormous meteors of dark energy plummet towards the earth, casting the lone house in a deep, ominous shadow. Wang Kai's eyes glow a menacing red. The calculation is complete, and a countermeasure is ready. In a flurry of mechanical whirs and clanks, a sophisticated missile launcher pod emerges from the little dog's back. The harmless pet is gone. In its place is a heavily armed weapons platform. Wang Kai has entered battle mode. Wang Kai unleashes a massive barrage of missiles, which intercept the Demon Queen's spell and explode in the shape of a giant, fiery heart in the sky. With the threat neutralized, Wang Kai instantly retracts its weapons and reverts to its cute dog form, barking as if nothing out of the ordinary just happened. Elizabeth is left speechless. She realizes the hero's arrogance stems from relying on what she assumes is an advanced magical tool with its own consciousness. Refusing to be outdone by a mere tool, she gathers her power, her pride as the Demon Queen on the line. But in front of me everything is inferior. A massive surge of dark purple energy erupts around her as she prepares to unleash an even greater level of power. She begins to cast her next spell, a higher tier of magic designed for widespread destruction, apocalyptic magic. Having lost all interest in testing him, Elizabeth decides to end it now with overwhelming force. She unleashes Earth Recasting, a world-altering spell that causes the very ground to heave and shatter, the first in a series of attacks she plans to launch. But once again, Wang Kai is one step ahead. Its calculation for this first spell is complete, and it stands ready to counter whatever the Demon Queen throws at it next. As Elizabeth prepares to unleash a series of quantum mechanical black holes, Wang Kai counters by opening a small compartment on its chest with a click. The miniature black holes are drawn towards Wang Kai, swirling around it before being completely absorbed and neutralized. The terrifying offensive magic is effortlessly negated, seemingly disappearing into thin air against Wang Kai's defense. Watching the exchange, Elizabeth maintains a smug and confident expression, believing her ultimate power is unbeatable. "It's useless," she declares. She commands him to disappear obediently along with this land, certain of her victory. A massive swirling vortex of energy manifests, the full power of her quantum mechanical black hole spell, designed to erase everything from existence. However, just as before, the attack is completely nullified by the strange power emanating from the hero's small companion. In an instant, the dark, apocalyptic sky clears completely, returning to a peaceful, sunny day as if the battle had never occurred. Elizabeth stares in stunned silence, her apocalyptic magic, one of her most powerful assets, has been effortlessly cracked. A bead of sweat drips down her face as disbelief turns to shock. She looks down at the perfectly intact house, her mind racing. What kind of trick did he use? What did he do inside that house? The scene cuts to inside the house, revealing Lai Ping tucked comfortably in his bed. "Come at me, I'm prepared," he says with a grin, while a note clarifies he's simply waiting for death. Back outside, Wang Kai barks defiantly at the hovering demon queen, standing its ground after single-handedly neutralizing all of her attacks. Elizabeth's face is a mask of cold, silent fury. Her pride has been wounded, and she glares down at the small barking dog. Wang Kai lets out a challenging howl, as if mocking the demon queen and daring her to try again. The combination of humiliation and disbelief finally breaks her composure, and she bursts into manic, unhinged laughter. Through her laughter, she admits to herself, unexpectedly in the end, "It's me who underestimated." Her eyes gleam with a new, dangerous resolve. Her hands begin to glow with immense power as she extends her claws, preparing to finally get serious. Her massive demonic wings unfurl behind her, casting a great shadow as she taps into a deeper level of her strength. She warns the hero not to get conceited, claiming that she has used less than 30% of her full power-up until now. "You impudent scoundrel," she roars, "let me show you what real terror is." Her body transforms as she enters her ultimate demon god form. In her magnificent and terrifying new form, Elizabeth unleashes her full might, facing off one last time against the tiny but ever-ready Wang Kai, who has re-entered battle mode. The final clash is a colossal explosion of energy, a blinding light that signifies the peak of their battle. 1 hour later, the battle is over. Lai Ping lies sleeping peacefully in his bed, puffing out a small breath in his sleep. His eyes slowly open. The first thought that crosses his mind is, have I already died? He sits up in bed and lets out a long, deep yawn, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. He feels surprisingly well for someone who is expecting to be annihilated. The morning sun streams into his living room, which is completely peaceful and undamaged. There is no sign of the epic battle that raged just outside. Lai Ping looks around in complete confusion. He was certain he was about to die, but here he is, safe and sound in his own home. He notes how quiet it is outside, a stark contrast to the destructive chaos from before. Cautiously, he walks to the front door and places his hand on the handle, preparing to face what's on the other side. With a nervous grin, he wonders if the demon queen is still waiting outside to finish him off. Taking a breath, he opens the door to discover the shocking outcome of the battle. The story begins with Lai Ping cautiously peeking out from behind a door, a look of alarm on his face as he witnesses an unexpected arrival. The demon queen, Elizabeth, unleashes her immense power, but she is met with a surprising defense from Lai Ping's small robotic companion, Wang Kai, whose hand crackles with energy. In the intense battle, Wang Kai takes a direct hit, and the screen on its robotic head cracks under the force of the demon queen's assault. Watching from a distance, Lai Ping cries out in horror and concern for his companion, shouting Wang Kai's name. Elizabeth stands confidently amidst the clouds of battle, having seemingly disabled the small robot, which is sent flying backward. With a mocking tone, Elizabeth taunts Lai Ping, expressing her fake sorrow over destroying the magical tool he was so proud of. Feigning terror, Lai Ping puts on a desperate act, pleading with the demon queen to calm down and talk things over. Elizabeth coldly dismisses his plea, her eyes glowing menacingly as she retorts that they can talk after she kills him. However, the tide of battle has turned. Elizabeth finds herself shaking, pushed to her absolute limits, unable to believe that this could be the foretold end for her. Ultimately, the demon queen is overwhelmed. Defeated, she plummets from the sky as the victorious Wang Kai flies away from the impact. Lai Ping himself seems stunned by the outcome, calling out in disbelief at the scene unfolding before him. He rushes to the side of the fallen demon queen, cradling her and asking if she is okay. As her power fades, Elizabeth's demonic armor and horns begin to dissipate, crumbling into particles of light. To Lai Ping's shock, her clothes also start to disappear. He panics, yelling and asking what she's trying to do, completely flustered. The overwhelming situation results in a comedic, yet classic, nosebleed for our hero. The scene shifts. An alarm clock on a simple nightstand shows that time has passed and a new day has begun. Following her defeat, Elizabeth is seen sleeping in a bed, now wearing a plain white shirt with her hands bound. Suddenly, her eyes snap open, wide with shock and confusion as she regains consciousness. Lying on the bed, the reality of her situation crashes down on her. The mighty demon queen has suffered a humiliating defeat. She sits up, her hands still cuffed, and wonders why the hero chose to imprison her instead of killing her, questioning if it was a display of power to the world. Focusing her energy, she gathers her demonic power, intending to break free from her restraints. With a sharp snap, the cuffs shatter, but not from her own power, much to her surprise. Elizabeth stares at the broken restraints, realizing with a sweat drop that the cuffs themselves were another legendary-class artifact she had never encountered before. Her gaze sweeps across the humble room, her back to us. Everything looks so ordinary, yet she can't shake the feeling of unease as she wonders, damn, how much power is he still hiding? A chilling realization dawns on her as she pieces everything together. These strange things are definitely not simple, she concludes, her expression hardening. It seems this hero is much more wicked than I imagined. I underestimated him. Just as Elizabeth realizes the true nature of her captor, Lai Ping enters the room carrying a bowl of porridge and a plate of dumplings, cheerfully greeting her. Huh, you're awake. Despite being bound again, Elizabeth defiantly retorts that if he wants to kill her, he shouldn't expect her to beg for mercy. Meanwhile, Lai Ping thinks to himself that while the Demon Queen is indeed frightening, this is his only chance to survive, and he must seize it. Putting on a nervous expression, Lai Ping sweats and timidly asks if they can perhaps talk instead. A close-up shows her hands are once again tightly bound by the mysterious black cuffs. Lai Ping continues his act, explaining with a friendly smile that the handcuffs are just a precaution, reminding her of how terrifying she is. He quickly backpedals, waving his hands and correcting his choice of words, saying he meant she is formidable, not terrifying. Elizabeth gives him a quizzical look, clearly not buying his sudden change in demeanor. He presses on, suggesting there must be a misunderstanding between them, and offering to unlock the cuffs so they can talk things out. At that moment, Elizabeth understands. The hero's friendly facade drops, revealing a sinister, mocking grin as he thinks to himself, asking if she really thought she was formidable enough to challenge him. His true, menacing nature is fully revealed in a chilling close-up, as he internally declares that she is absolutely wrong. If she wants to stay alive, she must fulfill his demands. Infuriated by his audacity, Elizabeth's eyes gleam with rage as she snarls, questioning if he is actually threatening her, the Demon Queen. With a simple click, Lai Ping uses the key around his neck to unlock the very cuffs she couldn't break with her own power. As Elizabeth rubs her freed wrists, Lai Ping's cheerful persona returns. He explains he unlocked the handcuffs to prove he has no ill intentions and that now they can talk. Elizabeth assesses the unfavorable situation. She understands that a strong individual knows when to yield, deciding to endure the hero's arrogance for now, but vowing that he will regret it later. Lai Ping casually tells her to get some rest, while she sits on the bed behind him, now appearing small and powerless. Breaking the fourth wall, Lai Ping addresses the audience directly, stating that he's sure everyone is curious why he didn't just kill the Demon Queen while she was unconscious. He puts on a show of panic, explaining that in a world of swords and magic, a powerful being like the Demon Queen could easily possess a resurrection skill, and that he could never bring himself to kill a person. His demeanor shifts to that of a confident lecturer as he explains his philosophy. Resolving the conflict between a hero and a Demon Queen doesn't necessarily require killing and fighting. He strikes a ridiculously charming pose, complete with a rose in his mouth, concluding that as long as he can prove he's not a threat and befriend her, he can continue to live his life happily. Elizabeth stares in disbelief at his theatrical explanation, thinking he's still mocking her, while Lai Ping laughs triumphantly in the background. The scene shifts and Lai Ping's gloved hand gently rests on the cracked and damaged head of his robotic companion, Wang Kai. He holds up the broken part, sadly remarking on the state of his friend, "But Wang Kai, you've become such a mess." Elizabeth, who had been listening, scoffs and asks if this broken thing was his most powerful magic tool. Lai Ping replies with a smug, knowing smile, casually dismissing her question. He says it isn't a magic tool, but rather just a little thing he made recently out of boredom while living here. It was this casual arrogance that had earlier sealed Elizabeth's fate. Elizabeth's eyes widen in utter shock as she processes this new information. The weapon that defeated her wasn't some ancient artifact, but a recent creation born from boredom. This revelation shatters the assumptions she had just been operating on. A flashback to Elizabeth's inner thoughts reveals her strategy. She believed the hero was being careless by untying her, planning to secretly use her infinite magic to recover her strength. She was confident that with the hero's most powerful tool destroyed, the balance of power had shifted in her favor, even offering a mock apology for breaking his things. But in the present, Lai Ping casually ejects a small memory card from Wang Kai's broken head, stating that it's fine since the important part is still intact. This panel contrasts Elizabeth's fantasy of unleashing world-destroying magic to eliminate the hero with the current reality, where Lai Ping calmly admits that the robot's body can't be repaired. Then comes the final blow to her hopes. Lai Ping gestures to a shelf filled with identical spare Wang Kai bodies, reassuring her not to worry as he has made plenty of preparations. Elizabeth is left utterly speechless. The immense power she was gathering dissipates as she can only stare in stunned silence, a single "huh" escaping her lips. Lai Ping affectionately pats the head of one of the brand new Wang Kai units from his collection. He then slots the recovered memory card into the new body, effectively bringing his companion back online. He explains to the horrified Demon Queen that he only activates one at a time because they can be naughty, as a newly activated Wang Kai zips around his feet. In Elizabeth's terrified mind, she sees the horrifying reality, a maniacally laughing hero and his equally demonic-looking robot dog, barking in unison. The realization completely shatters her spirit. She slumps onto the bed, trembling and muttering in denial, "No way, there's no way." But in the midst of her despair, a new sensation breaks through. Her head lifts as she catches an alluring scent in the air. The fragrant steam wafts past her nose, and her curiosity overrides her fear for a moment as she asks, "What's that smell?" Lai Ping, his innocent facade perfectly in place, explains that he saw she fainted and decided to make some food to help warm her up. The source of the aroma is revealed, a steaming bowl of what is labeled regular meat porridge and a glistening plate of regular dumplings. Trying to cling to her dignity, Elizabeth proudly proclaims that only the weak need to eat, and that she, having reached a transcendent state, has no need for such earthly things. However, her body immediately betrays her, as her eyes drift towards the food and her stomach lets out an audible growl. Her stomach continues to rumble loudly, a clear sign of her hunger as she sits on the bed, staring at the meal placed on the nightstand. Lai Ping cheerfully presents the meal, confident that his plan of resolving conflicts with delicious, all-natural food that he grew himself will surely work. Her pride warring with her hunger, Elizabeth finally gives in. With a look of stern reluctance, she picks up a fork to sample the sparkling dumplings. She hesitantly brings a single, glistening dumpling toward her mouth. She takes her first bite, her expression hidden in shadow as she processes the flavor. Holding the half-eaten dumpling, she seems to be in a state of quiet contemplation after tasting the hero's cooking. Lai Ping watches anxiously, clenching his fists and worrying whether someone of the Demon Queen's status could possibly appreciate these simple, newbie village dishes. Her actions speak louder than words. She takes another piece, this time licking her lips with clear satisfaction, her pride forgotten in the face of the delicious food. She continues to eat, taking another dumpling from the plate and bringing it to her lips with clear enjoyment. Leaning back in pure bliss, she marvels at the taste. The meat juices burst like fireworks in her mouth, a natural flavor that also contains a high concentration of magical energy. Her face is flushed with pleasure. She can hardly believe such a delicacy exists, savoring the last bite, so delicious that she, the Demon Queen, can't bear to swallow it. With a final gulp, she swallows the delicious morsel. But immediately after, a jolt of shock runs through her. Her eyes widen in alarm as she feels a strange sensation. The shock turns to panic. Something is wrong, and she has no idea what is happening to her body. Her internal magic begins to surge chaotically, the energy from the food running rampant within her. The sensation becomes overwhelming, and she lets out a cry as she feels a massive eruption of heat and energy, leaving her blushing and breathless. She writhes on the bed, her body flushed and overheating. She pants, realizing the intense sensation is spiciness, far beyond anything she has ever experienced. Shaking and pointing an accusatory finger from her bed, she demands of Lai Ping, what did you add to the food?" Lai Ping feigns shock, covering his mouth as if he just realized his mistake. He innocently explains he added a bit of chili to suit his own taste, and asks if the Demon Queen can't handle spicy food. The truth dawns on her in a wave of humiliation and fury. As she trembles from the intense reaction, she realizes he had no good intentions. This evil hero has imprisoned her just to use her for his twisted research experiments. Continuing from the previous chapter, Lai Ping exclaims that he's found the perfect dish. He proudly presents a bowl of century egg and lean pork congee, claiming that it's a dish that clears heat and reduces fire. Meanwhile, the Demon Queen, Elizabeth, is lying in bed, looking weak and flushed. She internally fumes, thinking that Lai Ping is toying with her by giving her poison with one hand and the antidote with the other. Lai Ping brings the bowl of congee to her bedside. Despite her suspicions, Elizabeth takes a spoonful of the shimmering congee. As she eats, her sharp, demonic fangs are briefly visible. Suddenly, she has a shocked reaction, as if something unexpected is happening to her body. Elizabeth's spirit seems to leave her body, ascending into a heavenly realm filled with clouds. A profound sense of peace and comfort washes over her as her eyes glisten. Floating weightlessly, she feels that the quest for world domination and the struggle between the demon queen and the hero no longer concern her. She lets go of everything, embracing a carefree existence. In this state, she realizes how truly insignificant she is in the grand scheme of things. This profound realization triggers a breakthrough. Elizabeth's power advances, and she is officially recognized as Elizabeth, the 3-star demon queen. Back in reality, she looks at her glowing hands, bewildered that simply consuming food brought her to a new realm and advanced her power. Having regained some of her strength and composure, she confronts Lai Ping, demanding to know what he really wants. Lai Ping scratches his head with an innocent smile, claiming he just wants to research how a demon queen and a hero can coexist. Elizabeth's eyes narrow. She sees through his act and realizes he has finally revealed his true intention. In her mind's eye, she sees his true, manipulative form. He declares that in this world, she is the only one qualified to be the subject of his research, and that he will help her become stronger, so that she can then defeat him. Switching back to his harmless facade, Lai Ping sweetly asks if his proposal is okay, promising to continue making delicious food for her. Elizabeth is enraged by his condescending proposal. She declares that a knight may be killed but not shamed, reminding him that she is the demon queen. Lai Ping's sinister persona emerges again as he mockingly encourages her, saying he looks forward to seeing if she can defeat him once he helps her become stronger. Just as the tension peaks, Elizabeth suddenly closes her eyes and sighs, calmly saying, "Never mind, forget it." Her sudden change in attitude completely throws Lai Ping off. He is shocked and wonders if she still intends to kill him, as a small, crying chibi version of himself panics. Ignoring his confusion, Elizabeth simply turns her back on him, seemingly dismissing the entire conversation. Just as Lai Ping thinks he's been dismissed, she suddenly springs up, standing authoritatively on the bed. She points directly at him, demanding his full attention. Pointing at Lai Ping, Elizabeth declares that she agrees to his conditions. However, she makes it clear that she is not doing this out of fear, but to pursue the pinnacle of strength. Lai Ping is flustered, muttering to himself in confusion. He questions why she would fear him when she is the all-powerful demon queen who can do as she wishes. With her demonic aura flaring, Elizabeth adds another condition. She will not be submissive while living there, as her dignity as the demon queen must never be violated. She threatens that if he crosses that line, she will destroy him, even if she has to sacrifice everything to do so. Playing the part of the nervous captor, Lai Ping quickly agrees, suggesting that they should try to get along. Elizabeth's sharp, determined gaze shows she is holding him to his word. Their silhouettes are seen through the window. Elizabeth nonchalantly tells him to come over whenever he wants to research her, much to his flustered surprise. The mood lightens as Elizabeth, now in a chibi form, makes her final demand. If there's anything delicious, she wants it all. Lai Ping readily agrees. And so their strange pact is sealed. Outside, the hero's sword remains embedded in a stump as their life of cohabitation begins. The story then jumps forward in time. 1 year has passed. In the year that has passed, Lai Ping has fallen into a domestic routine, using his greatsword to chop firewood. We see him chopping wood in the yard of the house he shares with the demon queen. However, Lai Ping looks up with a worried expression, thinking to himself that things have gotten complicated. He explains that ever since the demon queen forcibly entered and broke the protective barrier of the newbie village, its time has gradually synchronized with the outside world. The real problem, he thinks, is that without the barrier's protection, the village has lost its concealment and is now completely exposed in the wilderness. And as a result, terrifyingly powerful monsters have begun appearing nearby. He continues his daily chore of chopping wood. He places another freshly chopped log onto the pile, but he realizes that because of the demon queen's powerful presence, the monsters don't dare to approach. This leads him to a troubling thought: what will happen to him once she leaves? His thoughts are interrupted by Elizabeth's voice shouting from the house. She calls him Le Ping and demands to know why her lunch isn't ready yet. Startled, Lai Ping calls back, assuring her that he is coming right away. With a bead of sweat on his face, he comes to a grim conclusion. For his own safety, he must seek her protection. Meanwhile, inside, Elizabeth is lounging on the couch, watching a drama on TV and eating chips. After a year of comfortable living, Elizabeth has put on some weight. She complains that she's tired of his recordings and asks if he can get something new from his system. Lai Ping appears with a steaming bowl, cheerfully announcing that the system has long disappeared, but he has prepared lunch for her. Still lounging on the couch, Elizabeth lazily tells him to give her a moment. She casually twirls her finger, attempting to use her magic. However, only a small, weak demonic wing appears, showing how sluggish her powers have become. She floats over to the kitchen island, still munching on chips. She confronts Lai Ping, accusingly asking what kind of poison is in the chips he's feeding her that makes her lazier the more she eats. She angrily accuses him of using delicious food as a guise for slow-acting poisons, trying to lead her into a state of total depravity. Lai Ping calmly explains that the chips are simply high in calories, and eating too many will naturally cause someone to become fat. Elizabeth looks down at her own belly in shock, finally realizing the effect the year of lazy living has had on her. Horrified, she snaps her fingers and unleashes her deep-sea magic. She levitates in a powerful pink aura, ready to transform. In a brilliant flash of light, she undergoes a negative attribute conversion. She emerges back to her slender, powerful self. She smugly explains that all the accumulated fat has been converted into magic power. Lai Ping is internally amazed, thinking to himself that it's incredible that magic can be used in such a way. Now sitting at the table, Elizabeth taunts him, asking if he's disappointed that she foiled another one of his tricks. Unfazed, Lai Ping simply tells her to eat. Elizabeth's mood instantly shifts as she sees the food. She happily exclaims that the lunch suits her taste perfectly and digs in. She eats ravenously, while Lai Ping nervously tells her to eat slowly. He offers to make more if it's not enough, resigning himself to the fact that he'll be living with the demon queen like this for a while. His comment makes her pause. She eyes him suspiciously, wondering what he meant by that. Lai Ping's sinister thoughts are revealed once more. He thinks to himself that she is still too weak, and he is just fattening her up like a pig before he ultimately kills her. Hiding his dark thoughts, he tells her he will go get dessert. Elizabeth looks on, annoyed. His comment about fattening her up enrages her. She slams her spoon down, declaring he's treating her like a pig, and that after breaking through more than 10 times this year, she's ready to challenge him to a decisive battle. Lai Ping returns from the kitchen, presenting her favorite dessert, pudding. Instantly, all her anger vanishes. Her eyes widen and sparkle at the sight of the sweet treat. A close-up shows the glistening pudding, topped with a bright red cherry. Her rage completely forgotten, Elizabeth transforms into an adorable chibai with hearts in her eyes, eagerly demanding that he give her the pudding now. Lai Ping smiles, satisfied. He notes to himself that this demon queen isn't so difficult to handle after all, since the right food can calm her down easily. The scene abruptly shifts to a different part of the world, where an old warrior with white hair runs desperately through a field, his face filled with panic. He and his daughter, a young warrior named Evil, are exhausted and panting as they flee for their lives. They are being pursued by two mysterious figures in purple robes and white masks, identified as the Apostles of the Dark Guild. One of the Apostles flies menacingly through the air, closing in on Evil's father. The Apostle unleashes a swift and powerful attack, slashing at him with dark energy. The scene opens with a sudden, violent attack. A mysterious figure in a purple hooded cloak appears, unleashing a terrifying ability that tears the very fabric of space. Caught by surprise, an old warrior with white hair and a thick beard, named Bess, looks up in alarm as the sky rips apart above him. He and his daughter, a young blonde knight named Evil, are caught in the vortex of the spatial tier, unable to escape its pull. The mysterious apostle continues its assault, the air thrumming with dark energy as the world distorts around it. Despite the overwhelming power, Bess grits his teeth, his expression a mixture of strain and fierce determination as he resists the attack. The apostle then casts another spell, a nail cage, causing massive, dark, thorn-like constructs to erupt from the ground, trapping the father and daughter. Now cornered, Bess stands defensively with his large shield, while Evil stands ready at his side, both prepared to fight for their lives. Bess turns to his daughter with a grave look, urging her to run towards the safety of the town while he holds their pursuers back. Tears welling in her eyes, Evil passionately refuses, crying out that she can't possibly leave him behind to escape by herself. His expression hardens as he insists, telling Evil that he made a promise to her mother to protect her, no matter the cost. Ignoring their conversation, another apostle floats down, conjuring a massive, swirling ball of ghost fire to annihilate them. Seeing the immense attack forming, Bess roars with desperation, declaring that they must finish this quickly with their strongest move. He lunges forward, swinging his enormous sword in a powerful, golden arc, channeling all his strength into a single, decisive blow. The golden slash of the sword clashes violently with the apostle's dark energy, creating a chaotic explosion of power. Bess's attack seemingly succeeds, slicing the apostle in two. The lead apostle, Guji, watches and utters a curious sound. However, the victory is short-lived. Guji extends a hand and begins to absorb the dark, shadowy remains of his fallen subordinate. As Guji absorbs his comrade, his own mask begins to contort, a second mask appearing from within as he seems to chant his own name. His body grotesquely expands and morphs, the absorbed power causing him to transform into a monstrous new form. With a tremendous roar of Guji, the apostle completes its terrifying transformation, surrounded by an aura of raw blue power. Refusing to give up, Evil stands firm, her face a mask of tearful determination as she draws her bow, vowing she will not leave her father. She unleashes her own ultimate attack, a natural arrow made of pure green energy, sending it flying towards the distant, transformed apostle. Guji seems completely unfazed. Muttering he effortlessly erects purple energy shields, easily deflecting Evil's powerful arrow. From behind, Bess again shouts for Evil to escape, warning her that the Dark Guild's apostles are too powerful for her to handle. Guji continues his advance, his form now even more monstrous, with massive, powerful blue arms crackling with energy as he prepares to strike. With a guttural grunt, Guji slams his fists toward the ground, launching a devastating attack meant to crush his opponent. Guji's powerful fist crashes down, creating a massive shockwave that tears through the battlefield. Bess is hit by the full force of the blow, the impact sending him flying backwards through the air. He cries out in agony as he coughs up blood, having sustained a critical injury from the devastating attack. Evil can only watch in horror, screaming for her father as he is brutally struck down. Lying broken amongst the rubble with his eyes now covered by a blood-soaked bandage, Bess uses his last ounce of strength to urge his daughter to flee. Suddenly, a shadowy silhouette appears on top of Guji's monstrous form, lashing out with what looks like a whip. The apostle's body continues to grotesquely morph, absorbing even more mass and becoming a horrifying, multi-masked blob of blue slime. Now transformed into a towering, gooey monster, Guji looms over the fallen warriors, chanting its name with menacing power. Defeated and desperate, Evil rushes to her father's side and pleads with the monster, offering to surrender herself if it will spare her father's life. The monstrous Guji seems to let out a guttural, terrifying roar, as if amused by her futile plea. An expression of pure terror washes over Evil's face as the horrifying realization dawns upon her. She is about to die. Guji raises its glowing blue claws, preparing to deliver the final, lethal blow to the helpless father and daughter. But just as it strikes, a massive, unidentified object crashes down from the heavens with incredible force. The impact creates a massive explosion of dust and debris, sending Bess's sword flying but shielding him and Evil from the blast. Evil, gritting her teeth against the shockwave, looks up in utter disbelief, shocked by the sudden and inexplicable turn of events. As the dust settles, a new, even more colossal creature is revealed, a giant beast identified as Lord Mammoth. Guji has undergone another transformation. Perched atop the gigantic Lord Mammoth is a mysterious, traditional-looking pagoda, completely out of place on the monstrous beast. The scene shifts to a new character, a wise-looking, robed figure identified as the Immortal Frog, who seems to be in control of the situation. The Immortal Frog speaks to a tiny figure on its head, addressing them as Big Brother, and reporting that the danger has been cleared. A close-up reveals the shocking identity of the Big Brother. It is Wang Kai, the small robot dog, sitting next to his doghouse, inexplicably perched on the giant frog's head. With an air of absolute authority, Wang Kai issues a command: do not harm the humans. He will take them back for the master to deal with, revealing his own hidden power and connection to a mysterious higher-up. Continuing from the previous chapter, a girl in armor suddenly wakes up from her slumber, startled and shouting about a monster. The scene shows where she was resting, on a simple cot in the middle of a plain, wooden-floored room. Now fully awake, Eva looks around the unfamiliar modern room, which strangely contains a TV and a gaming console. She anxiously wonders where she is, and more importantly, where her father is. Her thoughts flash back to her father, Bess, who is seriously injured. The memory fills her with a sense of urgency, and she steels her resolve, praying he hangs in there. Without hesitation, Evil throws off the blanket and plants her armor-clad feet firmly on the floor. She dashes out of the room, leaving the blanket flying in midair, desperate to find her father. Reaching a brightly lit doorway, she calls out for her dad. However, instead of an injured man, she finds her father, Bess, looking incredibly muscular and posing proudly. Evil is left utterly shocked and confused by the sight. She sees Bess posing alongside Lai Ping and Elizabeth. Impressed by her father's amazing physique, she thinks to herself that physical fitness is fundamental for a warrior. Lai Ping, watching Bess, is filled with excitement and admiration, exclaiming how amazing the warrior profession of this other world is. Meanwhile, the small robot dog, Wang Kai, happily barks and runs in circles at their feet. Elizabeth, however, is not pleased. With an angry expression, she swiftly kicks Wang Kai. She glares down at the robot dog, furiously questioning who told it to bring back these riffraff. Poor Wang Kai can only whimper sadly after being scolded. Ignoring the commotion, Lai Ping excitedly pokes Bess's arm, amazed at how sturdy his muscles are. Pleased by the compliment, Bess proudly declares that since Lai Ping likes it, he won't hide his strength. He then unleashes his power, activating a skill called Battle Soul Burning as a powerful aura erupts around him. Lai Ping's eyes sparkle with pure astonishment as he watches the incredible display of power. The scene shows a powered-up Bess, his clothes torn away, posing mightily next to an ecstatic Lai Ping. Evil watches this bizarre spectacle with a look of utter disbelief, asking her dad what on earth he is doing. The three of them stand in an awkward silence. Bess continues to pose, while Lai Ping and Evil just look at each other, confused. Finally noticing his daughter is awake, Bess explains that he is simply trying to please their saviors. Picking up on the confusion, Lai Ping turns to Evil with a smile and begins to explain the situation. However, before he can explain, Elizabeth appears with a cold expression. With a chilling aura, she bluntly tells them to get out now that they are awake. The tension thickens as Elizabeth stands before Evil with her arms crossed, giving her a stern and unwelcoming warning. Continuing from the last scene, Elizabeth glares at Evil, asserting her dominance by stating, "I came first." Sensing the escalating tension, Lai Ping quickly steps in to mediate. He gently placates Elizabeth while suggesting to an unnerved Evil that since guests are rare, they should all go inside and talk. Now inside, the four of them are gathered around a table. Lai Ping apologetically offers them barley tea that he made himself, lamenting that he has nothing better to offer in such a rural place. Evil holds the glowing cup of tea and looks to her father, asking if this is the miraculous, instant healing potion he had told her about. Lai Ping lets out a casual laugh, dismissing her question. He cheerfully admits that what he gave them before wasn't a potion at all, but just some cold well water. Meanwhile, Elizabeth sips her own drink, silently wondering what kind of twisted experiment Lai Ping is planning by bringing back these two weak humans. Bess begins to recount the events leading to their arrival, stating that although he was unconscious, he has a vague memory of what happened. His memory flashes back to a scene of Lai Ping diligently working his farmland with a hoe. The flashback continues, showing Wang Kai carrying the unconscious bodies of Evil and Bess to Lai Ping. After finding them, Lai Ping simply poured well water on the gravely injured Bess, which inexplicably caused a brilliant, golden aura to erupt from him as he was healed. Finishing his story, Bess turns to Evil, telling her with conviction that if it weren't for Lai Ping's help, he would have never seen her again. Still under the impression that the tea is magical, Evil looks at her steaming cup and asks hesitantly if they can really drink something so precious. Lai Ping just laughs warmly, dismissing their concerns and telling them there's no need to be so polite. With that, Bess and a still hesitant Evil thank him and take a sip of the barley tea. The moment they drink it, their eyes widen in shock as a powerful energy courses through them. Beams of golden light envelop both Bess and Evil as they sit in stunned silence. They are transported to a symbolic realm, a vast field of golden barley, where they float blissfully as their power levels surge. The camera pulls back to show them at the heart of a massive vortex made of light and barley grains. As the energy swirls, a floral symbol materializes, signifying a profound change or awakening is taking place. A graphic illustrates their sudden advancement. Bess breaks through from a 3-star to a 4-star archmage, while Evil leaps from a mere 1-star mage to a 1-star archmage. They return to reality, glowing with newfound power. Bess exclaims in disbelief that they've advanced. Evil notes that her mother's dormant elf bloodline has also awakened, causing her to sprout pointed ears. Reduced to chibi forms to show their resignation, Bess and Evil sigh, overwhelmed by the inexplicable events. Lai Ping simply watches them. Seeing their state, Lai Ping cheerfully offers to pour them another cup of the potent tea. Bess, with tears streaming down his face, begs him to stop. He cries that Lai Ping is a godly person, and they can't possibly withstand such overwhelming torment. Lai Ping relents, but with a sly look, he adds that he can't serve them any snacks because Elizabeth took them all, and taking them back might annoy the Demon Queen. Overhearing this, Elizabeth clicks her tongue in annoyance, declaring that everything else is hers and they shouldn't even think about touching it. Lai Ping continues his apology, saying there's nothing to serve them, while Bess and Evil remain in a state of overwhelmed shock. Changing the subject to get to the heart of the matter, Lai Ping turns to Bess and asks how he and Evil ended up getting attacked. Bess explains with a grim expression that, as Lai Ping might have guessed, it was because of the elven bloodline flowing through Evil's veins. Evil elaborates on their family history, revealing her mother was the saintess of the elf race who fell in love with her human father. However, the elves forbid intermarriage with other races. Lai Ping looks surprised, connecting the dots and asking if this means the elves are the ones trying to capture them. Elizabeth scoffs at their story, dismissing it as nonsense. She confidently states that the intermarriage ban was abolished long ago after she, the Demon Queen, unified the world. Ignoring Elizabeth's comment, Bess continues with a heavy heart, explaining that ever since Evil's mother was forced to return to the elf Holy Land, he took Evil and went into hiding. Lai Ping summarizes the tragic story, comparing it to a real-life Romeo and Juliet, and confirming his assumption that the elves eventually found them. Bess corrects him, revealing a more sinister enemy. He explains that due to his wife's sacrifice, the elf tribe had spared them. The ones hunting them now are from the Dark Guild of the Demon Realm. The mention of the Demon Realm and Dark Guild immediately piques Lai Ping's interest, while Elizabeth looks visibly irritated. Suddenly, Elizabeth snaps at Lai Ping, demanding to know what he's implying, forcing a hasty apology out of him. Composing herself, Elizabeth's tone becomes dangerously serious. She demands that they explain everything about this so-called Dark Guild from the Demon Realm and their reasons for capturing elves. Bess reveals their shocking goal. The Dark Guild is conducting mysterious human experiments in an attempt to resurrect the Demon Queen who once unified the world, Elizabeth herself. Evil adds that elves are being used as materials for these experiments, making her a target. Elizabeth is silently furious that they are using her name for their schemes. Lai Ping gives a knowing smirk towards Elizabeth, whose face is now completely shadowed by her building rage. In a comical chibai outburst, the infuriated Elizabeth throttles Lai Ping, yelling that she knows exactly what he's thinking. As Lai Ping tries to calm the raging Elizabeth, a bewildered Evil asks her father what they're talking about, only to be told to mind her own business. Elizabeth, calming down, reflects on the situation. It seems the world outside has undergone massive changes, and she wonders who started the rumor that she was dead. Completely missing the point, Bess confidently informs her that the Demon Queen Elizabeth has been missing for 500 years, a fact known to all. The mention of 500 years sends a shockwave through Lai Ping. He realizes with horror that there is a massive time discrepancy, as Elizabeth has only been living with him for a little over a year. With a chillingly calm demeanor, Elizabeth leans back and asks if these rumors also specify exactly how she was supposed to have died. Evil innocently answers, reciting from the history she knows, that the Demon Queen Elizabeth was killed by the legendary hero. Bess adds to the legend, explaining that the epic battle lasted a whole month, culminating in the legendary hero sacrificing himself to slay the evil Demon Queen. Hearing this insulting and fabricated tale of her own demise, Elizabeth finally snaps. Her eyes glow with furious red energy as she screams, "How dare you!" An immense wave of killing intent explodes from Elizabeth, pinning a terrified Bess and Evil against the wall under the crushing pressure. Caught within the suffocating red aura, Evil realizes in horror that this isn't a magical boundary, but a wave of pure, unadulterated killing intent. With cold fury in her eyes, Elizabeth declares to the terrified pair that the rumors of her death are completely false. Under the immense pressure of her killing intent, Bess and Evil can only force hideous, strained smiles and nod in frantic agreement. Just then Lai Ping cheerfully interjects with a shocking declaration, pointing to himself and announcing that he is, in fact, the legendary hero from their stories. This new revelation is too much for Bess and Evil to handle, and they can only scream "What?" in complete and utter shock. Lai Ping's expression turns serious as he glances towards Elizabeth, preparing to drop his final bombshell. With a dramatic facepalm, he finishes his statement, revealing that the woman sitting right there with them is the very Demon Queen they were just talking about, Elizabeth. The sheer weight of these back-to-back revelations, the legendary hero and the Demon Queen in the same room, causes a critical information overload, sending Bess and Evil flying. The two of them are left completely catatonic, foaming at the mouth as their minds completely shut down from the shock. Elizabeth can only glare at Lai Ping, her annoyance growing by the second at his cruel theatrics. In Elizabeth's vision, she sees Lai Ping's true intentions. He's laughing maniacally, delighting in her humiliation by inviting others to mock her while she's imprisoned. Having reached her breaking point, Elizabeth slams her hand on the table, shattering the teapot and screaming, "Enough." Her face is shadowed with rage, as she coldly informs Lai Ping that she will not entertain his twisted games any longer. Fuming, Elizabeth thinks to herself that Lai Ping's cruelty knows no bounds, believing he brought these people here solely for the purpose of humiliating her. She storms out of the room, slamming the door with such force that it cracks the entire wall, leaving Lai Ping and the others in stunned silence. Continuing from the last chapter, Bess, who has just been healed by Lai Ping, exhales in exhaustion after a session of intense training. His daughter Evil approaches with concern, asking her father what his plans are for the future, implicitly wondering how they should deal with their mysterious and powerful host. Lai Ping, however, is lost in his own thoughts. He realizes that after Elizabeth broke the time barrier, the flow of time became chaotic. While it felt like a short time for them, 500 years have passed in the outside world. Later that night, the moonlight streams through the window of the quiet house. Unable to sleep, Evil and Bess lie in their beds, whispering about the shocking truth they've learned. The legendary demon queen supposedly fell in love with the hero and chose to hide away, much like their current host, Lai Ping. Evil is still suspicious. She whispers, questioning why Lai Ping would save them in the first place if he harbored any ill intentions. Bess offers a grim perspective. To beings as powerful as Lai Ping, who casually helped them level up with what he called sacred tea, they are no different from ants. Their survival depends entirely on his whims. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps breaks the silence. Someone is approaching their room. A shadowy figure appears in the doorway. It's Lai Ping, a sinister grin on his face as he asks them what they're doing up so late. His grin widens into a mischievous laugh, sending a chill down their spines. Revealing a deck of cards, Lai Ping cheerfully suggests a game, since they're all awake anyway. Bess is utterly bewildered by the bizarre proposition, playing cards at a time like this. The scene shifts to the three of them sitting in a circle on the floor, the room lit by a single candle. Lai Ping claims that he has just finished explaining the rules of the game. Lai Ping asks if they understand. Bess, looking tense, replies that he roughly gets it. Evil, however, sees through the facade, realizing this game is a test to decide whether they live or die. With a casual smile, Lai Ping announces that he will now begin dealing the cards. Evil nervously asks for the name of the game, sensing a sinister aura emanating from the glowing blue deck of cards in front of her. Lai Ping lets out a surprised "oh," as if he hadn't thought of a name yet. He feigns contemplation, thinking to himself that a game like Landlord would be too difficult for the people of this world to understand. Then, with a flash of inspiration and a manic grin, Lai Ping declares, "Got it. Let's call it Dragon Fight." The name Dragon Fight sends a wave of terror through Evil and Bess, who react with pure horror. Elsewhere in the house, Elizabeth, the demon queen, is hiding using a high-level magic concealment technique. She overhears the commotion and is baffled by the name of the game. Peeking around a corner, she watches the strange scene unfold, wondering what on earth Lai Ping is planning now. Lai Ping continues his explanation, telling the two terrified, brave heroes that they must join forces to defeat the dragon. He then clarifies to a stunned Bess that the game isn't so simple. Their roles, whether they are the hero or the dragon, will be randomly decided by the cards they draw. The grim reality of the situation finally sets in. Evil and Bess exchange a terrified glance, whispering to each other that this is, just as they feared, a test to determine their fate. In the shared vision of the father and daughter, Lai Ping's face twists into a demented grin. He warns them that he's starting to deal, and they must think carefully before they choose. Back in the room, Lai Ping casually fans his own cards. "Hee, look at my cards first," he taunts, urging them to hurry up and draw. Seeing his daughter hesitate, Bess speaks with grim determination. "Evil, there's no room for hesitation now. Take your cards." With a trembling hand and a terrified expression, Evil reaches for the deck. The cards crackle with a sinister blue energy as she touches them. The moment they draw their hands, the world around them dissolves into a swirling vortex of energy, pulling them into the game's domain. Bess looks around in utter shock, the strange, digital-like space making him wonder if they have been transported to another realm entirely. Evil feels a sudden weakness, realizing with horror that the simple act of picking up the cards has completely drained her of all her magic power. Overwhelmed with guilt for being a burden, she turns to her father and begins to apologize. But Bess cuts her off, his expression firm and reassuring. "It's okay," he says, "leave the rest to Dad." Lai Ping playfully licks his lips, fanning his cards towards them. "Do you want to be a dragon?" he asks, offering them the role of the main opponent. He glances at his own hand. It's a solid set, complete with both jokers. He smirks, thinking it's definitely worth taking a shot at being the dragon himself. Both Evil and Bess, sensing the danger in that role, immediately refuse. Neither of them wants to be the dragon. Lai Ping's eyes gleam with excitement as he studies his hand again, realizing he's just a few cards away from a winning combination. He gives them one last chance. Are you sure you don't want to? But the father and daughter duo nervously shake their heads, refusing the role. A wicked smile spreads across Lai Ping's face. Then I won't be polite, he says, deciding to seize the powerful role of the dragon for himself. He slams his hand down on the floor, claiming his 3 extra cards as the dragon. He places the 3 cards he just drew face up for the others to see. A close-up shows the 3 cards he revealed, an 8 of spades, a 10 of spades, and a queen of diamonds. Lai Ping's expression immediately sours. The cards he received were useless to his hand. Ah, this, he mutters in frustration. Seeing his annoyance, Evil and Bess grow even more anxious, sweating as they wonder if they've somehow already displeased him. Not wanting to wait, Evil makes the first move. I'll play first an 8, she announces, turning to her father. It's your turn, Bess. Bess studies his own hand, his face a mask of concentration. He steels his resolve, thinking that if they can just pass this test, they will be spared. They can't give up. But then a horrifying realization hits him with the force of a physical blow. Then the horrifying truth of the game slams into Bess. This isn't just a game of cards. He realizes that every single card they play is at the cost of their own life force. But knowing Evil is powerless, Bess grits his teeth, determined to protect her. He plays a single jack, and the price is immediate. His life force is visibly drained away, his hand withering for a moment as the card consumes his vitality. Seeing her father's hand physically wither from the strain of playing a single card, Evil cries out his name in horror. Despite the agonizing cost, Bess grits his teeth, assuring his daughter, I'm fine, leave it to me. With tears in her eyes and unable to play a stronger card without sacrificing more of her father's life force, Evil has no choice but to fold. I pass, she says dejectedly. The turn falls to Lai Ping, who thoughtfully analyzes his hand. He weighs his options, contemplating whether to break up a strong potential combination or hold back and risk letting them recover. Making a strategic decision, Lai Ping also chooses to pass his turn. Bess is shocked. Since both his daughter and Lai Ping passed, the turn has circled back to him, forcing him to take the lead and spend even more of his precious life force. Lai Ping mocks the weeping Bess, asking if he really doesn't want to play. Through his tears, Bess simply says no, knowing he has no choice. Bess sees Lai Ping's cruel strategy. By passing, he's forcing Bess to keep playing and draining his own life. The only way out is to get rid of all his cards as fast as possible. As Bess prepares to play a powerful combination, Lai Ping explains that according to the rules, this specific set of cards is called a flying dragon. Bess grunts in agony as he plays the hand. He understands the dreadful price. This move costs him a leg. The stronger the cards, the greater the sacrifice. As he plays the cards, a massive spectral blue dragon is summoned, erupting from the floor and filling the room with its overwhelming energy. The sheer power of the move leaves both Evil and Bess as pale, shocked specters of themselves, their souls seemingly knocked out of their bodies for a moment. The ethereal dragon lets out a tremendous roar, shaking the very foundation of the small room. It unleashes a devastating beam of energy, the boom of the attack highlighting the incredible power of the flying dragon combination. Meanwhile, Elizabeth, still concealed, watches the spectacle with a pout, looking completely unimpressed by the life-and-death struggle happening before her. After its powerful attack, the spectral form of the dragon begins to dissipate into trails of blue energy. Bess cries out in despair, believing he has made a fatal mistake. By playing such a strong hand against the legendary hero, he thinks he has offended him and sealed their doom. Lai Ping watches him, a thoughtful, unreadable expression on his face as he considers his next move. Then a flicker of what might be approval appears in his eyes. Well played, he says, his voice startlingly calm. Bess is completely stunned by the unexpected praise, stammering Lai Ping's name in confusion. With a cheerful, almost mocking smile, Lai Ping waves his hand dismissively. I don't want it, you go on. He passes his turn, choosing not to counter the powerful attack. Resigned to his fate, Bess looks at his crumbling, disintegrating hand. Okay, I understand, he says, accepting the terrible cost of his move. He plays a single 3 of spades. The price is paid immediately as not only his hand, but now his leg also begins to shrivel and decay. Watching her father sacrifice another piece of his body just to play a single card, a horrified Evil is left with no choice but to pass her turn. Lai Ping grins, his moment to strike has arrived. It's my turn, he says, playing a simple 10, a card he knows they cannot possibly beat in their weakened state. Exhausted and overwhelmed, both Evil and Bess admit defeat for the round. They have no card that can beat Lai Ping's 10. A sinister laugh escapes Lai Ping's lips as he savors their desperation and prepares his next devastating move. With a manic, triumphant grin, he throws down a long sequence of cards. A straight from 6 to Queen, he declares. The powerful move unleashes a massive shockwave of magical energy that explodes outward from Lai Ping. The energy manifests as a colossal, terrifying tidal wave, a sky-destroying wave that looms over the helpless father and daughter. They are immediately engulfed by the violent torrent of energy. Bess screams for his daughter to hang in there as she cries out for him. Their spiritual forms are shown drowning and gurgling, completely overwhelmed by the force of Lai Ping's attack. The wave finally subsides, leaving them gasping for air. Bess cries out in despair, "Ha, I can't play." He has no cards left to counter Lai Ping's relentless assault. Ignoring their plight, Lai Ping calmly announces his next play, a powerful full house. Okay, then next is 3 of a kind with a pair. His move summons another terrifying magical construct, a ghostly chariot pulled by 2 spectral horses, charging through a cosmic void directly at them. Bess, utterly broken, screams that he can't beat the attack, but just as he gives up all hope, Evil interjects, telling him to wait. Her expression transforms, her eyes burning with a new, fierce resolve. She stares down Lai Ping's attack and declares, "I want it." Bess instantly realizes what she intends to do. "Don't," he pleads, "that's paying with your life force as the price." But Evil has made up her mind. Looking at her own full house, she thinks, "I can't always hide behind. I also want to protect Dad." Stepping forward, she slams her cards down, sacrificing her own life force to play a stronger full house to protect her father. Her sacrifice summons her own spectral chariots that courageously charge forward to meet Lai Ping's, resulting in a massive explosion of energy as the chapter comes to a dramatic close. The scene opens with a massive explosion, a continuation of the intense battle from the previous chapter. Bess and Alif can only watch as the powerful blast lights up the sky. From the explosion, a spectral chariot materializes in the sky, pulled by ethereal horses. Below, Ping, Bess, and Alif stare up at the intimidating magical construct, wondering what kind of power they are facing. Fearing for his daughter's safety, Bess turns to her with a panicked expression, shouting to ask if she's all right. Alif, however, looks resolute. With a stern gaze, she reassures her worried father that she is fine. Meanwhile, Ping calmly analyzes the situation. He reflects on Bess's sacrifice, noting that the determination to protect one's teammates is the key. He seems amused, commenting to himself that his companions are learning the rules of this card game faster than he expected. Bess looks down at his hand, which is beginning to disintegrate into blue, skeletal energy, a direct consequence of the cursed game. He grimly repeats Ping's word, determination, as he feels his life force draining away. Ping's expression turns grim, his face obscured by shadows. Holding his own cards, he ominously declares that it's too late, implying that Bess's fate was sealed the moment he played that game. Alif and Bess are taken aback by his sudden change in tone. Confused and alarmed, Alif calls out his name, questioning his dark statement. Even the Demon Queen, in her small chibi form, senses a drastic shift in the atmosphere. A feeling of dread washes over her as she exclaims that something bad is about to happen. With a confident smirk, Ping finally makes his move. He sits down and dramatically slaps 2 cards onto the ground, revealing his trump card, the Joker. The effect is immediate. A massive crack splinters across the fabric of space itself, originating from where the cards were played. From the spatial rift, a monstrous figure begins to emerge. Its giant, terrifying claws descend towards the ground, heralding the arrival of a powerful entity. The summoning is complete. A grotesque, enormous monster dressed as a court jester looms over them. Its sadistic grin and malevolent eyes promise only chaos and destruction. The Demon Queen is completely floored. She stares in disbelief, unable to comprehend how Ping managed to summon such a terrifying and powerful being. A system window pops up, identifying the monstrosity. It is the Supreme Clown King, a 3-star level demon. This confirms the terrifying power level that left the Demon Queen in shock. The Clown King extends its massive hand, a glowing red heart materializing in its palm. The gesture is unsettling, leaving everyone to wonder what sinister magic it is about to unleash. A close-up on the Clown King's face reveals its sheer insanity. Its eyes are wide with manic energy, a being of pure, unpredictable chaos. The colossal clown suddenly notices the tiny Demon Queen hovering nearby. With a threatening tone, it asks her what she's looking at, its attention now fixed on her. The clown's threat intensifies. It brandishes a wicked-looking knife and leans in, sadistically warning the Demon Queen that it might just kill her, revealing its bloodthirsty nature. The Demon Queen erupts in fury. Being threatened by a mere summon is a grave insult to her royal status. She angrily proclaims that even in her weakened state, she's a 3-star demon, and she can't believe Leping casually summoned a being of equivalent power. In the midst of the chaos, Bess apologizes to his daughter, lamenting his powerlessness. Elif, however, looks down, blaming herself. She believes that she must have annoyed Leping, causing him to unleash this terrifying monster. Bess's condition suddenly worsens. He clutches his chest in agony, exclaiming that his life force is draining away at an alarming rate. He collapses to his knees, his hand landing on the cards that sealed his fate. The game is over, and he has paid the ultimate price. Seeing Bess collapse, Leping calls out to him, acting surprised. He asks if Uncle Bess is okay, questioning if his injuries have suddenly worsened, as if he hadn't just predicted this grim outcome moments before. Then a painful memory surfaces in his mind. Leping suddenly recalls all the seemingly innocent card games he played with Bess. He realizes the old warrior, a master strategist, was never actually losing. Bess was simply letting him win, and in his naivety, Leping had been disturbing the injured man's crucial recovery time. The chaotic energy of the Supreme Clown King erupts into a colossal pillar of light, dwarfing Leping and his companions below. The raw, untamed power is terrifying to behold. The scene cuts to a memory in Leping's mind. He remembers happily waving goodbye after a card game with Bess, telling him to get some rest, completely oblivious to the harm he was causing. As he walked away in his memory, a dejected feeling washed over him. He muttered an apology for the trouble, a stark contrast to his cheerful demeanor just moments before. Back in the present, the immediate danger seems to have passed, leaving Elif and Bess stunned but alive. Elif dazedly questions how they survived, while Bess reflects on Leping, admitting that the legendary hero is an enigma he can't comprehend. The Demon Queen, however, is seething. Her eyes burn with fury as she processes the insult and the chaotic power Leping has unleashed. She completely misinterprets the situation, believing the card games and the summoning were all an elaborate ruse. In her mind, this was all a complicated plot by Leping to create an opportunity to attack her. A few days pass. The scene shifts to a peaceful, remote homestead where Leping has been helping Bess and Elif recover from their ordeal. Bess and Elif, now fully recovered and dressed for travel, are preparing to leave. Leping tries to persuade them to stay a while longer, mentioning that the fruits he planted are almost ready to be harvested. Standing beside him is the Demon Queen, now back in her full-sized form. Bess graciously declines the offer, stating they can't impose on Leping and the Demon Queen any longer. He expresses his profound gratitude for their help, much to Leping's awkward embarrassment. Bess assures Leping that they will keep everything they've witnessed a secret. Elif looks at the gift in her hands, touched and a little overwhelmed that Leping is still offering them presents after everything he's done for them. Leping sheepishly plays down the gift, telling them it's just ordinary barley tea and nothing to make a fuss about. As they shake hands to part ways, Leping offers Bess one last item, calling it a memento. The gift is a deck of playing cards, the very same type that nearly cost Bess his life. Bess is visibly shocked, recognizing the dangerous nature of the cards and questioning why Leping would give them to him. Leping's expression becomes serious, his face hidden in shadow as he insists that Bess should take them. He then puts on a display of humility, claiming his own card skills are too poor and that he's not suited to wield their power, a clear reference to the guilt he feels for not realizing Bess was going easy on him. The Demon Queen, standing nearby, calls out to him with an incredulous look. She knows exactly how skilled he is and isn't buying his flimsy excuse for a second. Her interjection makes Bess even more nervous, caught in the middle of this strange exchange. Fed up with the entire situation, the Demon Queen loses her patience and shouts at Bess and Elif to hurry up and leave. Heeding her command, Bess and Elif depart in a sudden gust of wind. Leping simply waves them goodbye as they vanish into the distance. He seems a bit confused by their hasty exit, muttering another bye to the empty space where they just were. Now that they are alone, the Demon Queen haughtily declares that things are back to normal and orders Leping to go make her some food, an order which he meekly accepts. Meanwhile, far away from Leping's home, Bess is running for his life, carrying Elif as they flee at top speed. The frantic escape is taking its toll on Elif. Dizzy and exhausted from being carried at such a high speed, she pleads with her father to stop for a moment, unable to take any more. Bess finally skids to a halt, putting Elif down as he tries to catch his own breath, his heart still pounding from their desperate flight. Catching his breath, Bess reflects on the whirlwind of terrifying events they've endured. He recounts the stressful game test with the hero, Leping, followed by the intimidating threats from the Demon Queen. His words trigger a flashback to the previous night. The memory shows him and Alif kneeling helplessly before the Demon Queen, who has revealed her imposing, true demonic form. In her true form, she is no longer the small, chibi companion or the attractive woman, but a terrifying sovereign of demons, radiating an aura of immense power and authority. The memory continues, showing her asserting her dominance over them, her power so overwhelming that they couldn't even think of resisting. Both Alif and her father clutch at their throats, suffocating under the pressure of her immense magical power. The Demon Queen placed a curse mark on them, a magical brand that appeared on Alif's neck as glowing red runes. Speaking her name for the first time, the Demon Queen, Elizabeth, gives them a direct command. They are to leave the next day and swear never to reveal any information about her or Leping to the outside world. With no other choice, Bess submits to her will, addressing her as Your Majesty. The glowing curse marks on their necks serve as a constant reminder of their forced oath. She then explains the function of the curse mark. It's a fail-safe. If they ever even think of betraying her, the mark will activate and instantly kill them. The flashback ends. Back in the present, Bess explains his understanding of the situation to Alif. He's realized the truth of history. The legendary hero and the Demon Queen, tired of endless conflict, have retired from the world to live in peace. As he speaks, Alif notes that their surroundings look familiar. Bess looks over a cliff and is shocked to realize that in their panicked flight, they ran so far that they've ended up back at a previous location. Unbeknownst to them, their path wasn't random. A small robotic dog named Guzi watches from afar, revealing in an internal monologue that it deliberately sent them back to this spot to ensure they wouldn't bother its master and the fierce woman anymore. A comedic cutaway reveals the actual situation. Guzi didn't just guide them, it used a rocket-propelled grabber to physically carry the running duo through the air and deposit them here. Bess and Alif look down the hillside and find the skeletal remains of fallen enemies, confirming this is the site of a previous battle against the Dark Guild apostles. The discovery makes Bess extremely anxious. He warns Alif that a place like this is likely teeming with high-level demons and they need to leave immediately. Just as Bess gives his warning, the robot Guzi also senses an approaching presence. Guzi sees a strange portal opening nearby, but it quickly dismisses the potential danger, deciding that whatever is coming is better than facing the wrath of the fierce woman back home. With a cheerful hop, the little robot dives headfirst into the mysterious portal, making its escape. But just as Guzi leaves, another portal vomits forth a group of dark, cloaked figures right in front of the terrified Bess and Alif. A tall, sinister-looking demon, the Great Apostle, emerges, flanked by his masked underlings. They cackle and make strange noises, sizing up their new prey. Bess's face contorts in terror as he recognizes their new foe, stammering out the name, the Great Apostle. Alif, unfamiliar with the name, questions her father, not yet understanding the gravity of the threat they face. A system window confirms the enemy's identity and power. He is a Great Apostle of the Dark Guild, a 2-star Great Demon Spirit. He lets out a chilling laugh, confident in his power. His minions are identified as well, all of them Apostle-level, 1-star Demon Spirits, forming a formidable demonic squad. A system panel helpfully lays out the power rankings, confirming that Demon Spirit is a tier above Grand Mage. Alif instantly recognizes the massive gap in strength. In a desperate plea, she offers to distract the enemies, telling her father to run and save himself. But Bess doesn't flinch. He agrees that the power gap is large, but after witnessing the godlike power of Leping and the Demon Queen, his perspective has shifted. Compared to them, these apostles suddenly seem insignificant. A powerful aura erupts from Bess as he prepares for battle, clutching the deck of cards Leping gave him. Alif proudly declares that her father was once known as Iron-Hearted Bess, a renowned hero. Inspired by his encounter with true power, Bess unleashes a massive wave of energy from the cards, blasting the entire squad of demons in a single, decisive attack. The Great Apostle can only look on in shock, a sweat drop running down his face, completely unprepared for this level of power from the old warrior. With the battle over, Bess explains to his daughter that after her mother returned to the elf tribe, he became timid and overcautious while raising her alone. But now, his old fighting spirit, the spirit of Iron-Hearted Bess, has finally been rewoken. Continuing from the last chapter, Bess has a change of heart. He tells his daughter that his own father was wrong about running away and that they must face their difficulties. He resolves to take her to the elf tribe and reunite her with her mother. To face the looming threat of the Dark Guild, Bess pulls out a set of cards. They are all the number 4. Bess activates his unique ability, card summoning. A powerful magic emanates from his cards. From the light, a goddess-like figure descends. It is the powerful arrow god, summoned by Bess's 4 of a kind. The elf girl looks up in shock and disbelief, recognizing the summoned being. With tears in her eyes, she whispers, "Mom." With the powerful spirit of his wife now summoned, Bess commands the arrow god to unleash her power upon their enemy. The arrow god gracefully draws her bow, gathering a massive amount of green energy into a single, devastating shot. The target, an apostle of the Dark Guild, seems unfazed, letting out a bizarre moo sound. The arrow god's attack strikes the apostle directly in the head with immense force, creating a powerful impact. The beam of light continues to pierce through the apostle's head, showing no signs of stopping. The sheer power of the arrow is overwhelming, completely engulfing the enemy in its light. As the light from the arrow finally pierces through the apostle, his body begins to disintegrate. However, the apostle's mask shatters to reveal a small, green demonic creature underneath. It catches the arrow's energy with its bare hands. The demon laughs maniacally, seemingly absorbing the power of the arrow god's attack. But the attack wasn't over. Another wave of energy from the arrow slams into the demon's true form, annihilating it. The cards in Bess's hands begin to dematerialize, indicating the end of the summoning. Having fulfilled her purpose, the arrow god fades away, her energy dissipating into the air. The elf girl cries out in alarm, as using this powerful skill takes its toll, causing Bess to collapse to his knees in exhaustion. Trying to reassure his daughter, Bess pants heavily and jokes that perhaps it's time for him to change his profession. And so, on that day, a legendary new profession was born on the continent of heroes, the Card Master. The scene shifts. A week has passed since Bess's battle. The setting is now a peaceful village under a bright blue sky. We see Lai Ping, the hero, enjoying a slice of watermelon. He muses about the wonders of the magical world, proud of his successful hybrid fruit breeding method. Despite his success, Lai Ping feels a sense of loneliness, thinking to himself that the joy of the harvest feels empty without anyone to share it with. As Lai Ping contemplates his loneliness, the story reminds us of the world's core conflict, showing a menacing image of the primary antagonist, the powerful demon queen Elizabeth. And opposite her stands the figure of a lone warrior, a symbol of the prophesied hero destined to face her, a role Lai Ping is unknowingly tied to. The story transitions, showing a symbolic image of an elf, representing the elven race and connecting to the journey Bess and his daughter have just begun. Returning to Lai Ping, he continues his monologue, admitting that although he thought he was satisfied with a peaceful life, his contact with the outside world has made him restless. He dismisses the thought, however, believing himself to be too weak. Suddenly, a small explosion goes off right next to the moping Lai Ping, startling him. The cause of the disturbance is Elizabeth, the demon queen, who has appeared in a lounge chair. Casually sipping a drink, she asks him what's on his mind. Lai Ping confesses his desire to go out and see the world, but again laments that he is too weak to do so. Elizabeth smirks, seeing her chance. She offers to take him on a trip, teasing him for having such an arrogant attitude despite his claims of weakness. Lai Ping's demeanor instantly flips. He jumps up excitedly, exclaiming that if he has the protection of the demon queen, then it's a completely different story. Unimpressed with his sudden change in attitude, Elizabeth coolly tells him to stop talking nonsense and to go change his clothes. After getting ready, Elizabeth models the new pants Lai Ping made for her, admitting that his cooking and sewing skills are very impressive. Now both dressed for a journey, Lai Ping proudly puffs out his chest and declares that those domestic skills are his specialties. Joining them is Lai Ping's small, robotic dog Wang Kai, who lets out an excited bark. With a snap of her fingers, Elizabeth demonstrates her power, opening a swirling blue transfer door. She explains that the portal will take them directly to the nearest town. Lai Ping is blown away by such a convenient skill. The trio, Lai Ping, Elizabeth, and Wang Kai, prepare to step through the portal and begin their adventure. Just as Elizabeth is about to enter the portal, Lai Ping stops her, stating that he has a few questions first. Lai Ping lays out 3 conditions for their journey. First, she won't leave him alone. Second, she must keep her emotions stable. And third, she has to act low-key. He elaborates, demanding that she can't leave without his permission, must control her temper, and cannot use magic recklessly, as it would ruin his fun of experiencing the life of an ordinary person. A vein pops on Elizabeth's head as she is forced to agree to his terms, her annoyance barely contained. Lai Ping then nervously asks if she will come back to the village with him after their trip, worrying that without the village's protective barrier and her power, he'd be eaten by demon beasts. Elizabeth reassures him, declaring that of course she will. To her, the outside world means nothing until she has officially defeated him, the so-called evil hero. Lai Ping is pleasantly surprised by her firm declaration, not expecting such a response. Having agreed to his terms, Elizabeth states that he must now agree to one request from her. A bead of sweat runs down Lai Ping's face as he stammers, nervously asking what her request could possibly be. Elizabeth leans in close, her expression unreadable. She states that upon their return, there is one thing she will require him to make for her. Her one non-negotiable condition for this entire journey is a super deluxe assorted fruit pudding. Lai Ping is completely dumbfounded by the Demon Queen's request, questioning if he heard her correctly. Pudding. Standing before the portal, Elizabeth glances back at him coolly, asking if there's a problem with her condition. Immensely relieved that her only demand was a simple dessert, Lai Ping's cheerful and eager attitude returns instantly as he agrees and enthusiastically urges them to go. With their terms mutually agreed upon, Lai Ping and Elizabeth step into the transfer door, leaving Wang Kai behind. Not wanting to be left alone, Wang Kai lets out a bark and leaps into the portal right after them. Lai Ping travels through the swirling vortex of the portal, shielding his eyes as he approaches the bright light of the exit. He emerges on the other side, his eyes widening in pure shock and amazement at what he sees. The portal has deposited them in a vast and bustling city, a stark contrast to the quiet, empty village they left behind. A new stage is set for their adventure. The scene opens to a wide view of a vibrant and bustling settlement known as Boaster Town, a neutral territory. The streets are filled with various people, including a fish-like humanoid and a swordsman, going about their day. Having just arrived, Lai Ping is completely starstruck, exclaiming how amazing the place is, while Elizabeth, the Demon Queen, walks beside him with a look of utter indifference. Lai Ping's excitement grows as he spots an equipment shop, eagerly trying to get Elizabeth's attention. He then points to a food stall selling ingredients, comically noting that it looks just like regular pork. While Lai Ping dashes around the town square, exploring everything with childlike wonder, Elizabeth walks calmly through the crowd, unfazed by the lively atmosphere. Observing the town, Elizabeth coolly remarks that after 500 years, the changes in the outside world don't seem very significant. Lai Ping catches up to her, agreeing that the town doesn't seem as chaotic as they were led to believe. Elizabeth smirks confidently, attributing the current peace to the strong foundation she established during her rule. She proudly elaborates that back in the day, the world was in conflict, but she used her absolute strength to suppress all the warring forces. With a sharp glance, she concludes her monologue, stating that she was the one who truly saved the world, not the so-called legendary hero. She fumes silently, clearly still resentful towards the hero who took the credit for her hard work centuries ago. Elizabeth turns away, annoyed, complaining that Lai Ping isn't even paying attention to her past achievements. But Lai Ping is already distracted, his attention captured by a small stall selling adorable stuffed rabbits and bears. He examines a doll and compliments the craftsmanship, asking the young seller if she made it herself. A shy girl with large, round glasses named Annie confirms that she did and offers him a discount if he likes it. Suddenly, their conversation is interrupted by a brutish, pig-headed thug who angrily demands to know who gave Annie permission to set up a stall in his territory. Without waiting for an answer, the thug violently smashes her small stand, sending her handmade dolls flying onto the dirty street. He then grabs the terrified Annie, accusing her church of owing his gang protection money and questioning her audacity to operate in his spot. Behind her, 3 small orphans look on in terror, crying out for their Annie sister. Despite being manhandled by the huge thug, Annie bravely retorts, asking why they should pay protection money when he's never once protected them. The pig-faced gang leader sneers, informing her that, as of last month, the entire street falls under the territory of his beast gang, and survival requires monthly tributes. Finding a surge of courage, Annie shouts back that it's not true, and that he'll be in big trouble when the nun from the church returns. The thug loses his temper, threatening to drive the orphans away and demolish their church. Hearing this, something in Lai Ping snaps, and he steps into the confrontation. Acting on pure impulse, he bellows a single, commanding word to halt the injustice. Stop. Startled by the outburst, the pig-headed thug glares menacingly at Lai Ping, demanding to know what he wants. Lai Ping, having acted on impulse, immediately loses his nerve and stammers, unable to form a coherent sentence. Elizabeth, looking disappointed, scolds him for minding other people's business and asks if he plans to toy with ordinary people again. Realizing he's in over his head, Lai Ping turns to his only hope, desperately and silently pleading for Elizabeth to help him. However, Elizabeth simply turns her back on him with her arms crossed, refusing to stoop to the level of common thugs, much to Lai Ping's dismay. The gang leader grows impatient with the lack of an answer and presses Lai Ping again, demanding to know his intentions. Panicking, Lai Ping clutches his head, trying to come up with a plan while the crowd and an unimpressed Elizabeth watch on. In a stroke of misguided genius, he decides to appeal to the public, pointing at the thug and calling for everyone to condemn him for bullying a little girl. His passionate plea is met with a wall of silent, expressionless stares from the onlookers. The crowd remains completely indifferent, with one person even casually eating a slice of watermelon, completely ignoring the unfolding drama. The gang leader bursts out laughing, mocking Lai Ping for thinking anyone would dare to help, reminding him that everyone on the street knows and fears the Beast Gang. His attention then shifts to Elizabeth. Noticing her for the first time, the thug lecherously comments on her good looks. Switching tactics, Lai Ping puts on a friendly face and tries to de-escalate, offering to talk things over and share some local specialties from his backpack. But the thug has lost all patience. He orders his gang to beat up Lai Ping and take Elizabeth back to their headquarters to be locked up. At the threat of being imprisoned, Elizabeth's demeanor changes completely. A dark, powerful aura envelops her as she smiles menacingly, stating they have truly stepped on the tiger's tail. In an instant, she unleashes a terrifying wave of magical energy, tearing a massive rift of pink, lightning across the sky above the town. The immense pressure and sudden change in weather bring the thug and his men to their knees, terrified and confused by the incredible display of power. The sky rumbles as dark, stormy clouds gather and lightning flashes, a testament to the Demon Queen's unleashed fury. Horrified, Lai Ping realizes she's about to obliterate not just the gang, but the entire town, and he frantically begs her not to do it. He quickly tries to calm her down, nervously fanning her and suggesting she just scare the thugs, questioning if she'd really fight ordinary people. Elizabeth closes her eyes and huffs, reluctantly agreeing to spare the thug's life only because Lai Ping asked her to. As she contains her power, the massive column of magical energy dissipates, though a strong aura still emanates from her and those around her. Annie, who had been cowering on the ground, adjusts her glasses and looks up in complete awe, realizing the immense power that the quiet sister possesses. The gang leader, now soaking wet from a sudden downpour caused by the atmospheric shift, looks up at the clearing sky in utter bewilderment, wondering if it was just raining. Shaken and unnerved, he points a trembling finger at the duo. He can't understand the sudden fear he feels, but tries to regain control by asking if they truly intend to stand up for the church orphans. Seeing that brute force isn't the answer, Lai Ping changes his strategy and calmly asks the thug to tell him how much money he wants for protection. Though still shaken from before, the gang leader puts on a tough front and states that the total fee is 10 gold coins for 2 months. Elizabeth scoffs, finding it utterly foolish that they made such a big fuss over a mere 10 gold coins. Lai Ping turns to Elizabeth with a hopeful grin, assuming she must be rich. She proudly confirms she has so many treasures she can't even count them all. He then asks for a loan, promising to pay her back, but she flatly refuses, calling him an idiot for wanting to exchange her valuable food supplies for useless things. She then adds that besides, she didn't bring any of her treasures with her when she came to find him. Growing impatient, the gang leader turns to his own goons and asks if any of them have money. Out of options, Lai Ping scratches his head sheepishly, admitting he has no gold coins and asking if he can use the local products in his bag to make up for it. The thug, thinking Lai Ping is toying with him, finally loses his temper and prepares to fight. Suddenly, a heavy black pouch flies through the air and smacks the gang leader square in the face, sending gold coins spilling out. Clutching the bag and his bruised face, the enraged thug demands to know who threw it. His eyes narrow as he inspects the source of his pain. His anger quickly turns to avarice as he opens the pouch and sees it is filled to the brim with glittering gold coins. A majestic centaur knight in shining white armor appears, identifying Lai Ping as his friend and telling the thug to take the money and get out. The thug's demeanor changes instantly upon recognizing the knight is from the renowned Sword Saint Guild, and he respectfully agrees to give him face. He tosses the money bag to Annie, warning her that she won't be so lucky next month, before leading his gang away. With the thugs gone, Lai Ping helps Annie to her feet as the other orphans rush to her side, while the centaur knight and Elizabeth look on. With tears welling up in her large glasses, Annie bows and thanks them all for their help. Lai Ping smiles warmly and offers her some fruit, saying he's glad to see she's okay. The Centaur Knight gives a confident thumbs up, brushing off the incident as a trivial matter. However, his expression turns shrewd as he adds that if they're willing, he'd like them to partner with him on something. He approaches the group, his gaze fixed on Lai Ping and Elizabeth, with a clear proposal in mind. Annie, adjusting her glasses, curiously asks what kind of partnership he means and what she could possibly do to help. The knight suggests they go somewhere else to talk, adding that if things work out, it could solve all of her financial problems. Elizabeth, however, remains completely uninterested in the proposition. With her arms crossed, she tells Lai Ping they're leaving. Lai Ping panics and quickly tries to persuade Elizabeth, arguing that it would be rude to leave after the knight just helped them, and that they should at least hear what he has to say. As Annie prepares to follow them, one of the young orphans looks up at her with concern and asks if she is going out. Deciding to take the chance for her family, Annie reassures the children and tells them to head back to the church first, promising she will be back soon. The Centaur Knight leads the way, giving the group a stern warning to stay close to him once they enter the tavern. He leads them into a noisy, bustling tavern filled with adventurers and beastmen, a place where their discussion can take place in private. In a bustling tavern, a burly, orc-like man tries to hit on a woman with curly brown hair sitting beside him, suggesting she leave her trash companions and join him instead. Nearby, Lai Ping and his small, bespectacled companion notice the commotion, their expressions showing a mix of surprise and concern. The woman being harassed is revealed to be the demon queen, Elizabeth. She turns to face the thug, her eyes glowing with red-hot anger as she menacingly asks him to repeat his words. Instantly filled with terror, the thug and his friend start sweating profusely and nervously chugging their drinks, completely intimidated by Elizabeth's powerful aura. Elizabeth turns her frustration towards Lai Ping, blaming him for bringing her to such a lousy place and wasting her time. Ignoring her complaints, Lai Ping simply points ahead, announcing that they have arrived at their intended destination. They are greeted by a knight in shining armor who leads them down a corridor, promising them a private room where they won't be disturbed. The knight enters the room with a cheerful smile, announcing his return. The knight, addressed as Master, is immediately swarmed by a group of adoring women who are all vying for his attention and affection. The knight, scratching his head with a charming smile, casually mentions that he forgot to tell them about his few wives that are also present. Lai Ping is completely shocked by this revelation, his jaw dropping in disbelief as he stammers, "Your wives." The knight invites everyone to sit around a large table, preparing to introduce his party. Lai Ping, Elizabeth, and their companion take their seats. He begins by introducing the woman beside him, a shield warrior named Gasha, who looks at him with adoration. Next, he introduces two more members of his party, Lolo, an assassin with cat-like features, and Glee, a mage. Finally, the knight gives a thumbs up as he introduces Jelia, an elven archer. Hearing this, Lai Ping quietly remembers a different girl with elven blood he met previously. Growing impatient, Elizabeth cuts the introductions short, stating that it's a waste of time and demanding to know the purpose of their meeting. Gasha, the shield warrior, takes offense at Elizabeth's bluntness, complaining to her master about the woman's annoying attitude. Elizabeth glares back fiercely, her eyes glowing as she proudly declares that this is simply how a queen behaves, challenging anyone who has a problem with it. Lolo, the assassin, mocks Elizabeth's claim, questioning her sanity for calling herself a queen in front of their master. Glee, the mage, also chimes in, scornfully pointing out Elizabeth's elven ears and dismissing her as a lowly half-breed. Pushed to her limit, Elizabeth's face darkens with fury. She delivers a chilling warning that if they insist on provoking her, they shouldn't blame the queen for the destruction that follows. Just as the tension is about to erupt into a full-blown conflict, Lai Ping quickly steps in, holding out a small cup towards Elizabeth to distract her. Elizabeth's anger instantly melts away at the sight of the treat. Her eyes sparkle with delight as she recognizes her favorite dessert, exclaiming, "Pudding." As Elizabeth happily enjoys her pudding, Lai Ping breathes a sigh of relief, glad that his quick thinking successfully prevented a disaster. His simple trick had worked for now, but he knew he needed a more believable story to handle the hero's party. Taking the opportunity, Lai Ping begins to weave his cover story. He explains that they are from a remote, nameless tribe, introducing Elizabeth as the tribe's princess and himself as her loyal servant, Le Ping. Lolo, the assassin, remarks that Le Ping's story makes sense, concluding that Elizabeth's strange behavior is simply because she's a sheltered tribal princess who has never seen the world. Another of the hero's wives mockingly adds that Elizabeth must be from the uncivilized tribe that worships the demon queen in the demon realm. Leping continues the charade, explaining that Elizabeth is still adapting to cultural differences since it's her first time away from her tribe, all while thinking to himself that his explanation should be convincing enough. The hero decides to get back to business, officially inviting Leping, Elizabeth, and their companion to join his group in a treasure dungeon. However, he internally doubts their story, recalling the terrifying demonic power he sensed earlier, which seemed far too powerful for a simple tribal princess. While Elizabeth is still preoccupied with her pudding, Leping looks up and curiously asks, "Treasure dungeon?" Leping turns to his small, bespectacled companion, Annie, and asks if she knows what a treasure dungeon is. Annie explains that treasure dungeons are hidden magical spaces created by ancient, powerful beings to conceal valuable items. Leping nods in understanding. The hero confirms Annie's explanation, adding that this particular dungeon requires exactly 8 people to open its barrier. Leping realizes they are being recruited simply to meet the required number of people. Beside him, Annie begins to count the members of the party. After counting, Annie realizes with horror that she is the 8th person needed. Tears stream down her face as she panics and asks if she can be excluded. Leping is confused by her terrified reaction, wondering why she wouldn't be happy about the opportunity to explore a precious treasure dungeon. Annie tearfully explains to brother Leping that treasure dungeons are notoriously difficult, and as a mere 4-star magician, she is certain she will die if she goes. An informational panel clarifies the magic power ranking system, from magician up to demon god. Leping, however, scratches his head and admits he doesn't know much about magic levels. The hero reassures Annie, promising that his group will handle all the fighting. He explains that she just needs to be present to open the barrier and will receive a reward of tens of thousands of gold coins. Gasha proudly adds that her master is incredibly strong. At the mention of a huge monetary reward, Annie's fear vanishes, replaced by excitement as she realizes the money could solve her church's financial problems. Leping asks Elizabeth, who is still happily eating her pudding, if she's okay with joining the group. She nonchalantly agrees, telling him to make the decision so she can enjoy her dessert in peace. The hero stands and observes the interaction between Leping and Elizabeth, with Glee looking on from the side. Having secured their agreement, Glee, the mage, takes out a glowing crystal ball in preparation for the next step. Leping looks at the orb with curiosity, wondering what it is for. A close-up shows the hero's armored hand, reaching down to place it on top of the shimmering crystal ball. The hero explains that the item is Glee's, Magic Measurement's crystal ball, and that by placing a hand on it, they can measure their magic level. As the hero's hand rests on the orb, intricate glowing runes swirl within the crystal, indicating a measurement is being taken. Leping explains the function of the crystal ball as Annie looks on in amazement, noting that a score of 8769 translates to the demon spirit level, indicating an incredibly high concentration of magic. The hero reveals his own magic level is a formidable 4-star demon spirit, while his wives are all powerful, grand mages. He explains that understanding each other's strength is crucial for teamwork, setting the stage for the new members to be tested. Annie listens nervously, understanding that she's about to be evaluated next. It is Annie's turn. As she places her hand on the crystal ball, it glows and displays her magic level, a modest 300. Glee scoffs at the low number, commenting with disdain that she had a higher magic level when she first changed her job. Embarrassed, Annie apologizes profusely, sadly explaining that her magic level just refuses to increase. Leping steps up confidently, eager for his turn. He believes that even though he has never learned magic, his potential as the legendary hero must surely be high. With a confident smirk, he places his hand on the crystal ball while the entire party, including a still snacking Elizabeth, watches in anticipation. An awkward silence descends upon the group as they all stare at the crystal ball, waiting for Leping's result. The crystal ball glows and a single, undeniable symbol appears, a large, glowing 0. The hero is stunned by the result, muttering in disbelief that even a pure martial arts user who doesn't practice magic shouldn't have a score of 0. Leping hides his face in embarrassment, trying to save face by claiming it makes sense for a simple farmer like him to have no magic. He then begins to sulk, dramatically lamenting that he is doomed to have no magic in this life. Lolo looks at him with suspicion, questioning what he can possibly contribute to the team if he's completely useless. Leping's mood instantly shifts back to cheerful as he proudly declares that he is, in fact, very good at farming. To demonstrate his skill, He pulls a bunch of bananas from his backpack, offering the fruit he recently harvested to the bewildered group. The hero's wives react with open disgust, dismissing Leping as a typical bumpkin. Lolo, however, seems to be blushing slightly, suspiciously wondering if he really is just an ordinary servant. The hero ignores Leping's antics and turns his attention to Elizabeth, politely asking the princess to take her turn. Elizabeth, however, completely ignores him, absorbed in her food. Leping steps in, urging a reluctant, puffy-cheeked Elizabeth to cooperate with the group. Elizabeth is internally furious, annoyed that she has to waste her time accompanying these ignorant mortals. With an air of complete indifference, Elizabeth casually slaps her hand down on the crystal ball. The instant her hand makes contact, a colossal pillar of magical energy erupts from the orb, enveloping Elizabeth in a blinding, multicolored aura that completely obscures her face. The sheer force of the magical pressure sends the hero's wives reeling back in shock and terror, while the hero himself can only stare, his face grim as he's bathed in the overwhelming light. Leping breaks into a cold sweat, his mind racing with a single, terrifying thought. If Elizabeth's true identity as the Demon Queen is ever exposed, it would cause an unimaginable uproar. He turns to Elizabeth, who is surrounded by a swirling blue aura from the power-measuring device. Elizabeth," he stammers, a note of panic in his voice. Elizabeth doesn't even flinch. With a look of complete composure, her crimson eyes narrow as she simply replies, "I know." A smirk plays on her lips as she casually places her hand on the crystal orb. "It's rare to come out," she says, "so I'll play with you." The orb begins to glow intensely, reacting to her immense power. The rest of the adventuring party looks on, their forms reduced to comical, sweating blobs of pure shock and terror at the display of power. The crystal orb flashes brightly, displaying a staggering power level, 8768. Annie, a young boy with large glasses, pushes them up his nose in astonishment. "Wow, 8768, he exclaims. "Just like brother, it's a demon spirit level of strength." The other female members of the party, including the cat girl Lolo and an elf, are completely dumbfounded. "No way," one of them gasps. "This woman is also a 4-star demon spirit." Meanwhile, Leping lets out a sigh of relief, wiping a bead of sweat from his brow. He seems less worried about her power and more about the trouble it could cause. The party's knight, however, is ecstatic. He gives a hearty thumbs up. "Amazing, truly worthy of being the princess of the kingdom. With your joining, our chance of getting the treasure will greatly increase." The young Annie eagerly turns to Leping. "Brother, how do we go to that treasure dungeon?" he asks, excited about the prospect of adventure. The party's mage, Glee, presents a scroll to her master. "Yes, master," she says with a smile, ready to begin the journey. With a command from her master, Glee unfurls the teleportation scroll, its magical energies beginning to stir. A brilliant, swirling red magic circle erupts from the scroll, enveloping the entire party in its light. The force of the teleportation spell blasts through the room as the world dissolves around them. In a flash of light, the group materializes in their new destination, a vast, cavernous dungeon filled with glowing blue crystals. Leping stumbles, his head spinning from the disorienting effects of the teleport. I'm dizzy from the teleportation," he groans. While Leping is still recovering, Annie's sharp senses pick something up. This aura is," he wonders, sensing a familiar energy within the cave. Elizabeth, looking utterly bored, simply puffs out her cheeks. She seems completely unaffected and unimpressed by the situation. Her eyes narrow slightly. She already understands the nature of this place far better than anyone else present. The knight, full of confidence, turns to the group. "Let's not delay," he commands. "Let's go into the treasure dungeon." But just as they are about to proceed, Elizabeth suddenly stops. "I don't want to go. Leping, let's go home," she states plainly, shocking the other party members like Gasha and the Centaur Knight. The Beastman member of the party whirls around, furious. "Hey, you woman, what are you playing at? You came here and changed your mind at the last minute," he yells. Glee and the elf girl are equally outraged. They remind her of the fortune spent on the teleportation scroll, declaring, "If you don't go in, don't even think about leaving here." Elizabeth simply glances back, her eyes cold and her voice laced with a dangerous calm. "Wanna try?" she asks, the simple question a chilling challenge to anyone who would dare stand in her way. Just as the tension is about to snap, Leping steps between the two factions, holding up a hand to placate them. "Everyone, don't be impulsive," he says calmly. "Listen to me for a moment." His demeanor shifts entirely as he turns to the Demon Queen. With pleading puppy-dog eyes, he begs, "Since you came here, Elizabeth, just take me to see it, please, tilde tilde." Meanwhile, young Annie points towards the cave's interior, trying to get the party's attention. "Princess Elizabeth, did you notice?" he asks. He elaborates, pointing into the swirling purple and blue magic of the dungeon. Inside the cave, there is a magic power that is very similar to yours. Lai Ping looks puzzled by this revelation, question marks popping up around his head. A magic power that is very similar to Elizabeth's. What do you mean? Before anyone can ponder it further, the knight steps forward, grabbing Lai Ping to move him aside as he approaches Elizabeth. He extends a hand gallantly, a background of roses appearing behind him. Trust me, no matter what danger you encounter inside, I will protect you. Please go in with me, Princess Elizabeth. The Demon Queen gives him a silent, utterly unimpressed side-eye, her expression making it clear she has no intention of supporting his plan. She turns her back on him completely, leaving the knight looking flustered and annoyed as his chivalrous gesture is ignored. Finally, seemingly giving in to Lai Ping's earlier plea, Elizabeth sighs. All right, I'll play with you since I rarely come out. With a commanding presence, she begins to walk forward. Hurry up and follow, she orders, taking the lead. Lai Ping quickly follows after her into the depths of the dungeon, while the knight can only watch them go, his plan to lead having been usurped. The entire group stands silhouetted before a massive, shimmering gateway, a liquid-like barrier of pure magic that marks the true entrance to the dungeon. Both Lai Ping and Annie stare up at the magnificent and intimidating magical sight, letting out a collective wow, in awe. As the party walks deeper into the cave system, Lai Ping glances back and is alarmed to see the magical barrier has solidified and closed behind them. He looks at the now sealed entrance with wide eyes. Can't we go back the way we came? He asks, realizing they might be trapped. Elizabeth explains the grim reality without a hint of concern. Nonsense. In this special magic space, unless you are stronger than the person who set up the barrier, it is impossible to leave by transfer magic. She continues, gesturing to the vast, dark cave around them. So, unless you find the target location and meet the requirements of the barrier setter, none of them can leave here. They are completely stuck. Glee, the princess's mage, remains optimistic and confident in her leader. Hee, as long as we have the master with us, we will definitely get that thing, she says with a cheerful thumbs up. The gruff beastman immediately shuts her down. Hey, don't talk nonsense, he grumbles. Annie, ever the curious one, turns to Glee. Sister Glee, what do you mean by that thing? He asks innocently. The blonde elf girl leans over and whispers to Annie with a greedy smile. Hee, of course it's gold coins and treasure. Don't worry, you won't be left out. Ignoring their chatter, Lai Ping points down a dark tunnel, trying to get the group focused. The fork's in front of us, where should we go? He thinks to himself that with Elizabeth as backup, this adventure game will be no problem. The cat girl Lolo looks to her master for guidance, asking if they should split up to cover more ground in the confusing cave system. The knight holds off on that idea. Not for now, he decides, turning to his trusted mage with a new plan. Glee, use that move. Understanding immediately, she replies, Yes, master, preparing to reveal the dungeon's layout. Following her master's command, Glee plants her staff firmly into the ground, gathering an immense amount of golden magic around her, her hair and clothes whipping in the magical wind. She unleashes the spell with a powerful cry, Magic Spread. A brilliant wave of light explodes outwards from her staff, intended to map the entire dungeon. The magical energy surges through the cavern, a swirling vortex of power seeking out the limits of the maze. Her spell creates a vast network of light, a magical sonar attempting to find a path through the disorienting labyrinth. A supremely confident smirk appears on Glee's face as she boasts, Watch me, I'll find the shortest route to the treasure in no time. Watching from the side, Elizabeth lets out a soft, condescending chuckle. Ignorant, she says, fully aware that the mage's spell is a complete waste of effort in this illusionary space. A short while later, Glee's confidence has vanished. She's on her knees, panting heavily, the massive spell having completely drained her magical energy with no results to show for it. The knight approaches his exhausted mage, who is sweating and struggling to catch her breath. Glee, how is the situation in the maze? He asks. With tears of frustration welling in her eyes, Glee reports her failure. Master, this maze seems to have no end. I have extended my magic to the limit, and I have not explored any trace of the edge. The other party members are stunned. Gasho exclaims, No way, Glee's magic concentrated distance is 3 kilometers long. The elf then hopelessly suggests using her spirit divination, despite its abysmal 34% accuracy rate. Seeing their conventional methods failing, the catgirl Lolo suggests a new strategy. I suggest we split up and act in groups. I can use the clone technique to support. Having seen enough of the party's incompetence, Lai Ping discreetly turns to Elizabeth and whispers, Elizabeth, you actually know how to go, right? Elizabeth confirms his suspicion with a smug, knowing smile. Of course, this maze is just an illusion. These ignorant youngsters will never get out if they want to explore the end. Lai Ping whispers a suggestion to help them, but Elizabeth crosses her arms, her expression turning cold. No, I have changed my mind now. I just want to watch them perish with you. While they're arguing, Annie points confidently towards a specific cave entrance. By going through the third cave, he declares, we should be able to reach the destination. Elizabeth's eyes shift slightly, her gaze locking onto Annie. A flicker of genuine surprise crosses the Demon Queen's face. Lai Ping is shocked by the boy's certainty, asking how he knows. Annie sheepishly admits, actually, I'm just guessing. He taps a finger to his chin, clarifying his guess. Because that special magic is coming from that direction, he explains, revealing he's using his unique senses. Glee, however, is furious at being upstaged. Nonsense, she snaps. How come I didn't feel the magic you said? A mere 4-star mage should not make random comments here. Startled and intimidated by her angry outburst, Annie flinches back and stammers a frightened apology. Ignoring Annie completely, Glee points towards a different passage. Master, she advises, according to the known exploration, the last passage has the least monsters. We should go this way. The knight asks his team for their thoughts. Lolo speaks up, reiterating her earlier point. I still think it's better to act in small teams. But the warrior Gasha argues for unity. I think it's better to listen to Glee. Even if we go wrong in the end, we can just go back together. It's the safest. Glee makes a final, desperate plea to her leader. Yes, master, please trust me, she begs. The knight considers his options, then makes his decision. Well, then we'll act together in the last cave. He has chosen to trust his mage's flawed logic over Annie's astute observation. As the party prepares to enter the wrong cave, Annie shouts in desperation, his voice echoing in the cavern. No, you can go anywhere else but not the last cave. Seeing that his warnings are being ignored, Annie takes matters into his own hands. He casts a spell, puppet magic, summon, and a small, stitched-up rabbit doll appears in a flash of blue light. To prove his point, Annie sends the small puppet walking bravely towards the ominous, pitch-black entrance of the cave that Glee had chosen. The moment the puppet crosses the threshold, a horrifying creature lunges from the darkness. It's a massive mimic worm, its entire body a gaping maw of razor-sharp teeth, and it instantly snaps the puppet up. Lai Ping, who had been watching everything unfold with a sense of detachment, is completely horrified by the sudden appearance of the monster. His face turns pale with shock as he stammers, What is that thing? Inside the dungeon, Elizabeth calmly explains to a horrified Lai Ping that they are dealing with a parasitic beast, a creature typically found inside colossal monsters. Meanwhile, Lolo starts to connect the dots, asking if the area they explored was actually the inside of a corpse's stomach. The blonde mage, Glee, curses in frustration as the horrifying realization dawns on her. The grim truth is revealed as the entire party is shown walking out from the massive, rib cage-like remains of a dead giant. Unfazed by the other party's struggle, Elizabeth decides to abandon them, stating they should just let them struggle on their own. Lai Ping, with a relaxed and confident smile, smoothly suggests that it would be best if she led the way, subtly manipulating her into guiding him. As Elizabeth and Lai Ping walk off into the darkness, a worried Annie calls after them, questioning if they're even going in the right direction. Watching them leave, Lolo turns to her master, the knight, and asks if she should create a clone to follow them and gather information. The knight rejects the idea. He reasons that for Elizabeth to make such a calm choice after witnessing the horror of the mimic worm, she must be confident. He concludes that her background is far from simple. Deciding it's better to keep an eye on the suspicious pair, the knight commands his party to follow them. The knight and Lolo are shown as silhouettes, trailing behind Lai Ping and Elizabeth through the winding, cavernous tunnels. Suddenly, a menacing presence makes itself known in the darkness of the cave. A massive, glowing reptilian eye snaps open, glaring at the adventurers who have disturbed its slumber. The path ahead erupts into chaos as the knight's party is ambushed by a swarm of monsters. The party's warriors slash through waves of giant bats that relentlessly attack them from all sides. Having dealt with his share of the monsters, the knight, standing over a pile of defeated creatures, calls out to the rest of his team. One of the warriors, exhausted and panting, replies that while they've handled the immediate threat, the monsters just keep coming in endless waves. Meanwhile, Lai Ping and Annie are hiding behind Elizabeth. Lai Ping peeks out and asks if it's safe now. Elizabeth, looking back at them with a deadpan expression, comments on their terribly unconvincing acting. Having survived the onslaught, Glee furiously confronts Elizabeth, blaming her for the constant monster attacks along the path she chose. Elizabeth retorts with cold logic, pointing out that as a mage, Glee should know that monsters are naturally drawn to areas with concentrated magic. Glee explodes in anger, calling Elizabeth despicable for being a powerful 4-star demon spirit, yet standing by and watching coldly. Elizabeth simply reminds her that she had claimed she would handle any monsters they encountered. The knight tries to de-escalate the situation, telling Glee to calm down, but she is too furious to listen. Changing his approach, the knight turns to Elizabeth with a charming smile, declaring that it is his honor to escort her. Glee watches this interaction, her face contorting with rage and jealousy. She can't believe that, after being embarrassed, Elizabeth is now seemingly trying to seduce her master. Trying to regain control of the situation and recover from the battle, Glee suggests to the knight that they should rest for a while, an idea the warrior readily agrees with. Elizabeth scoffs at their suggestion to rest, stating coldly that this queen doesn't have extra time to waste on them. Enraged, Lolo and Jellia snap back, questioning how Elizabeth can be so relaxed when it was them who fought off all the monsters, protecting her. The knight steps in to mediate, suggesting everyone rest and drink some elf potion to recover. Lai Ping's interest is immediately piqued by the mention of the potion. Elizabeth asks if he wants to try it, and Lai Ping puts on a performance, feigning simple curiosity about its taste. With an innocent expression, Lai Ping claims he wants to try the potion in hopes that it might give him some new inspiration for his cooking. Elizabeth sees through his act, remarking that he must have grown tired of fine dining and now wants to experience ordinary things. She nonchalantly agrees to let him have some. The party gathers around a fire, finally taking a moment to rest in the dark and dangerous dungeon. Jellia holds her glowing elf potion, noting how effective it is. Her companion feels recovered, but expresses doubt about how long it will take to find the treasure. Using her magic, Jellia presents the radiant elf potion, a concoction swirling with potent energy. Jellia passive-aggressively offers the potion to Elizabeth, saying that since she's so powerful, she surely wouldn't need a potion that enhances one's status. The knight, overhearing her tone, sharply reprimands her, telling her not to be rude. Startled by her master's rebuke, Jellia immediately apologizes and lowers her head in submission. Though chastised, Jellia still lets out a frustrated HMPH under her breath, clearly still annoyed by the situation. Without a word, Elizabeth decisively snatches the potion right out of Jellia's hand. Seeing his chance, Lai Ping cheerfully announces that if Elizabeth doesn't want the potion, he won't be polite and will gladly take it off her hands. Wasting no time, Lai Ping begins to chug the glowing green liquid directly from the bottle. He immediately recoils in disgust, gagging on the overwhelmingly strong grassy flavor. He offers the tainted potion to Annie, asking if he wants it. Annie politely refuses the offer, explaining that since he hasn't consumed much magic power, he doesn't need the potion. Jellia scoffs in the background, muttering that giving her precious potion to magic idiots is a complete waste of good stuff. Upon hearing that, Elizabeth, with a blank expression, decides she's had enough and begins to dump the valuable potion onto the ground. Jellia completely loses her composure, screaming in disbelief and fury at the sight of her precious elf potion being wasted. Elizabeth glances back at the enraged Jellia with a cold, challenging look, silently asking, "What are you going to do about it?" Sensing the escalating tension, Lai Ping quickly plays the peacemaker. He tells everyone not to quarrel and starts searching his bag, saying he has something for everyone. With a flourish, Lai Ping presents his offering to de-escalate the tension, a bunch of bananas. He hands one to the knight, explaining that he's been wanting to share. The knight, taking it as a simple peace offering, thanks him. The rest of the knight's party accepts the bananas from Lai Ping, gratefully taking the simple offering. After distributing the bananas, Lai Ping turns to Annie with a smile, offering him an apple instead. Overwhelmed with emotion, Annie is moved to tears, clutching the apple as if it were a priceless treasure. Lai Ping is taken aback by the boy's reaction, telling him there's no need to cry over a simple apple. Annie tearfully asks if he can take the fruit back to the orphanage, explaining that the other children haven't had fresh fruit in a very long time. Touched by his plea, Lai Ping kindly pats Annie on the head and makes a heartfelt promise to send more fruit for all the orphans once they return home. A regal-looking woman, Princess Elizabeth, scoffs at the scene, disdainfully dismissing the offering as mere rotten fruit. Jellia quickly agrees with the princess, sneering and questioning how a simple banana could possibly compare to her precious elf potion. The knight, ever the pragmatist, tells his team to just fill their stomachs for now, promising them a proper treat after they secure the treasure. Following their leader's orders, the knight's party begins to eat the bananas provided by Lai Ping, completely unaware of the trap they've walked into. The moment they take a bite, their eyes fly open in shock as the illusion magic woven into the fruit takes hold. Suddenly, their surroundings transform into a bizarre, vibrant jungle. A giant parrot squawks about bananas as tiny flower-like fairies flutter around them. Now clad in absurdly colorful samba costumes, the bewildered party members look around in confusion, with Lolo asking where on earth they are. A rhythmic beat begins to play as a parrot's foot taps to the cha-cha-cha against a dizzying background of bananas. The source of the music is revealed to be a suave-looking grasshopper in a suit, holding a microphone and singing into it. A trio of singing grasshoppers appears, striking a pose and enthusiastically inviting everyone to dance. The lead singer, a grasshopper with a pompadour, points forward and commands the enchanted adventurers to do the samba dance. The music compels them to move, promising a release from all their dissatisfaction and frustration. The female warrior finds herself involuntarily dancing, the samba rhythm forcing her to bounce off dissatisfaction and exchange her troubles for joy. Lolo is also caught in the spell, her body moving to the beat as she pouts, a crown of bananas now adorning her head. She continues to dance uncontrollably, shaking banana maracas as her body sways to the magical, frustratingly cheerful music. The rhythmic drumming intensifies as the night centaur legs begin to stomp uncontrollably to the beat. His hands clap along to the music, completely out of his own control as the illusion takes full effect. The knight strikes a pose, leading the involuntary dance as the grasshopper's lyrics urge him to vent his frustration through samba. He leaps into the air, a look of pure confusion on his face as his body continues to dance the samba, exchanging his troubles for a bizarre, rainbow-colored joy. The lead grasshopper MCs the dance party, egging them on as Lolo and the warrior float through the air, completely lost in the samba rhythm. With her eyes rolled back in a trance, Lolo howls along with the music, her body completely surrendering to the bizarre, joyful illusion. The camera pans out on the absurd scene, showing the tiny figures of the enchanted party members dancing wildly amidst a forest of giant, glittering bananas. The perspective shifts back to reality. From Lai Ping's point of view, the Proud Knight's party is seen striking bizarre poses in the dark cave, muttering samba dance to themselves. The mighty knight is reduced to a wobbling mess, shaking his head back and forth as if trying to break free, all while chanting, woo-woo, uncontrollably. Jellia and Princess Elizabeth, who didn't eat the fruit, can only watch in absolute horror and confusion. Jellia cries out, asking her master what in the world he is doing, leaving them completely bewildered by the ridiculous scene. Continuing from the previous chapter, the group is at the camp when suddenly, the armored centaur known as Master is baffled as he experiences a sudden and rapid increase in his power level. The phenomenon isn't isolated. A dreadlocked warrior and the cat girl Lolo are equally shocked as they witness their own magic levels rising uncontrollably. Meanwhile, Lai Ping, seated by the fire next to a pensive Elizabeth, claps his hands in delight, mistaking the magical surge for part of a bonfire performance. He laughs heartily, remarking on how interesting the customs of this other world are, finding the sight of centaurs dancing to be well worth the trip. Elizabeth, however, sees the situation differently. She correctly deduces that Lai Ping intentionally enhanced their power, knowing they would otherwise die. Also, his game could continue. Elsewhere in the camp, two new elf companions, a blonde-haired elf girl and another named Jellia, are bewildered. Jellia, holding a banana, asks how everyone's magic levels suddenly skyrocketed. The small, studious-looking girl named Annie adjusts her large glasses and plainly states the reason. They all ate Lai Ping's bananas. Jellia reacts angrily, dismissing the explanation as nonsense. She scoffs at the idea that simple bananas could have such a potent effect, comparing them sarcastically to holy water. But the dreadlocked warrior confirms it was indeed the banana. He excitedly tells Jellia that it caused him to break through to the next level, ascending to a 2-star demon spirit. Lolo is also in disbelief, theorizing that the banana must have been enchanted by a magician of the demon sovereign level to have such a powerful effect. The power-up was universal. Even Master, observing the energy coursing through his hands, exclaims that he broke through 3 stages in a row, ascending to a 3-star great demon spirit, an unbelievable feat. The group turns to the source. Master directly asks Lai Ping about the origin of the bananas he provided. Lai Ping is taken aback, looking utterly confused by the question, as if he has no idea what they're talking about. Sensing his confusion, Master presses him, asking what's wrong. Lai Ping sheepishly admits that he doesn't know how to answer because, to his knowledge, it was just an ordinary banana. Realizing his blunder, Lai Ping's eyes narrow as he quickly concocts a more believable story. He decides to claim it's a special hybrid crop. He continues his lie with growing confidence, urging them to believe him and trust in his special hybrid fruit. Lai Ping gets carried away with his explanation, boasting that the production method involves all natural, organic farming techniques only possible in a world full of magic. Seemingly convinced, Jellia tells the elf girl that since their master said it works, they should hurry up and eat the bananas to increase their own magic levels. The scene shows both Jellia and the elf girl taking a bite from their respective bananas, expecting another surge of power. However, a close-up reveals the horrific truth. The inside of the banana is completely rotten and disgusting. Jellia immediately spits out the foul-tasting bite, recoiling in disgust and shouting that the banana is clearly bad. Watching the scene unfold, Annie pushes up her glasses and offers a one-word explanation for the strange events: synchronicity. Elizabeth turns to Annie, acknowledging her sharp intellect. In response, Annie humbly attributes her knowledge to magic books, adding that Miss Elizabeth is simply being too kind. This exchange, however, only deepens the mystery for the others. Seeking clarity amidst the confusion of rotten bananas and sudden power-ups, Master voices the question on everyone's mind, asking what exactly synchronicity means. Continuing the discussion, Annie elaborates on her theory of synchronicity. She explains that according to magic books, special treasures often require specific conditions to activate, guessing that Lai Ping's banana needed to be eaten by 3 or more people simultaneously to work. Jellia immediately refutes the theory, pointing towards Elizabeth, who is nonchalantly eating a banana. She challenges Annie, asking how she can explain why the banana had no effect on Elizabeth, who ate it alone. Caught off guard by the logical flaw in her reasoning, Annie becomes flustered and apologetically admits that she doesn't know the answer either. However, Annie quickly offers an alternative explanation. She suggests that if a user's own strength completely surpasses that of a treasure, the item becomes nothing more than an ordinary object to them, implying Elizabeth's power is on a completely different level. Elizabeth's piercing red eyes flash as she gives Annie a sharp, intimidating look, warning her to stop staring. Terrified by Elizabeth's gaze, Annie immediately panics, putting her hands on her head and apologizing profusely. Trying to save face after her own banana failed to work, the blonde elf girl scoffs, claiming her own recent power-up was likely due to the cumulative effect of elf potions she had been taking. Now a firm believer, Jellia ignores the elf girl and eagerly asks Lai Ping to share more of the fruits from his backpack. The elf girl is aghast that Shaji and Jellia actually believe what she considers nonsense. Lai Ping smiles warmly and readily agrees, proclaiming that sharing is the greatest joy. He reaches into his large backpack, which is revealed to be filled with an assortment of different fruits and vegetables. As he prepares to share, Elizabeth, with a smug look on her face, casually tosses the peel from the banana she finished eating over her shoulder. Before Lai Ping can distribute any of the fruit, Elizabeth swiftly snatches the entire backpack away from him, coldly stating that these are for her to eat later. The camera focuses on Elizabeth's lap, where she now holds the bag of precious fruits, reinforcing her dominance in the situation. With the bag secured, Elizabeth stands and announces that their rest is over. She urges everyone to get a move on, as their journey is nearing its end. Lai Ping turns to the centaur warrior, addressing him as Shaji Sr. He apologizes for not being able to share the fruit and promises to make it up to him later. Shaji waves him off with a smile, telling Lai Ping's group to go on ahead. He claims he will catch up with his wives after he finishes packing. Lai Ping seems surprised that they aren't all leaving together. Elizabeth impatiently calls for Lai Ping to hurry up. He agrees that his group will go first, and they can all meet up later. And so, the trio of Lai Ping, Elizabeth, and Annie turn and walk towards the dark, foreboding entrance of a cave, leaving Shaji's group behind. Back at the now-dwindling campfire, Lolo whispers to the dreadlocked man, suggesting they should try to snatch the backpack of fruits away. The dreadlocked warrior agrees, whispering back that Lai Ping and Elizabeth might even be hiding something better than the fruits. Shaji watches them go with a calm, calculating expression. He tells his companions not to rush, as the right time to act has not yet arrived, revealing a hidden agenda. In an internal monologue, Shaji observes Elizabeth from behind. He concludes that no ordinary person would carry such precious treasures so casually, meaning she can't just be a princess from some remote tribe. His thoughts become more specific as he licks his lips. He recalls that one of the 4 major powers, the Kingdom of Aristotle, is offering a massive reward for their missing princess, and he's now certain that princess is Elizabeth. His face contorts into a twisted, greedy sneer as a new, treacherous plan forms in his mind. If he can make the princess his own during this journey, he can climb the ranks of power in the kingdom, a prize far greater than any magical fruits. Resolved to seize this opportunity, he decides he will completely conquer her. The thought of the immense power he will gain fills him with a dark joy as he clenches his fist, his sinister decision made. As Shaji stands silhouetted against the campfire, his treacherous plan to betray his companions and seize power is now firmly set in his mind. He lets out a loud, maniacal laugh, reveling in his own ambitious and villainous scheme. His strange delusion of grandeur seems to be working, as his female companions, including Lolo and Jelia, look at him with adoration. They comment on a charming pheromone he's emitting and blame themselves for not satisfying him. In a bizarre display of fealty, the women crowd around Shaji's centaur hindquarters, tenderly calling out to their master. The scene shifts to the depths of the labyrinth, where Lai Ping's group has ventured. In the oppressive darkness, countless pairs of glowing red eyes watch them from hidden recesses. A fearsome creature emerges from the shadows, identified as a shadow wolf leader, its own eyes burning like red-hot coals. The shadow wolf leader lets out a ferocious howl that echoes through the dark corridors of the labyrinth. A wide shot shows just how small and vulnerable the trio of Lai Ping, Elizabeth, and Annie are in the vast, twisting maze. Feeling uneasy, Lai Ping asks Elizabeth if there is truly an exit, as the labyrinth seems to be getting progressively darker and more hopeless. Elizabeth remains calm and confident, reassuring him that the labyrinth's menacing nature is merely an illusion and that they are close to their destination. Suddenly, the walls of the labyrinth seem to come alive as unseen things begin to emerge from the darkness all around them. A terrified Annie grabs onto Lai Ping, warning him that something is approaching. He looks ahead, startled by the sudden alert. Without warning, a massive, sharp appendage slices through the air and slams into the ground right in front of them, sending up a huge cloud of dust and debris. Caught in the blast, Lai Ping coughs and sputters as he's enveloped by the thick dust cloud. Just as the dust begins to settle, the armored hooves of a centaur step into view, announcing the arrival of a new party. Shaji appears, having finally caught up with them. He casually apologizes for keeping them waiting. Behind him, his female companions, including Lolo and Jelia, look flustered and exhausted, as if they had a difficult time navigating the labyrinth. Shaji puts on a show of remorse, placing a hand to his forehead and dramatically apologizing to Miss Elizabeth for his delay. He bows deeply, attempting to be chivalrous. He offers to serve Elizabeth for the remainder of their journey, putting the first part of his plan into motion. With a sly, suggestive smile, he makes an overly familiar offer, suggesting that she can even sit on his back if she wants. Elizabeth is utterly disgusted by his forwardness. She coldly tells him to get lost, stating that he isn't qualified to be her mount. Her hand clenches into a fist, a clear sign of her growing irritation with Shaji's shameless behavior. Seeing her master rejected, the blonde elf girl angrily defends Shaji's honor, shouting at the arrogant woman for being shameless. But before she can continue, she is brutally struck down by an unseen attacker, falling face first into a pool of her own blood as Shaji and the others look on. The entire group, Shaji, the dreadlocked warrior, Lolo, and Jelia, are frozen in sheer terror, their faces masks of horror at the sudden and violent death of their comrade. Looking up, Lai Ping and Annie are horrified to see the source of the attack. The labyrinth ceiling is crawling with dozens of huge, insectoid monsters. "What is this?" Lai Ping gasps. A close-up identifies the grotesque creature as a dragon flea. It's a massive, purple carapaced beast with a gaping maw filled with razor-sharp teeth, letting out a clicking, chittering sound. One of the dragon fleas dives from the ceiling, streaking down towards the group below like a living meteor. At the same time, the monstrous, gaping maw of the shadow wolf leader lunges forward, ready to devour everything in its path. Elizabeth stands firm, facing it head-on. Elizabeth's eyes narrow, glowing with a brilliant, menacing pink light as she finally taps into her true power. She unleashes an immense wave of dark, chaotic energy. The powerful blast instantly obliterates the monsters attacking her group, demonstrating her overwhelming power. Amidst the chaos, Annie cowers on the ground, hands clasped over her head in pure terror. "We're done for, I'm dead," she wails. A terrified Lai Ping clings desperately to Elizabeth's side. "It's a matter of life and death, Elizabeth," he panics. "What are we going to do now?" Ignoring his panic, Elizabeth's voice is cold and resolute as she explains her true purpose. "Test human nature. Let the selfish and arrogant ones destroy themselves first," she tells him. "This is your first step." The scene cuts away to a flurry of dark, chaotic slashes, implying that Shaji and his remaining companions have been abandoned and are now being overwhelmed by the endless swarm of monsters. Inside the dark labyrinth, a fiery red weapon glows ominously. It's a massive shield, held firmly, ready for the battle ahead. The wielder is a muscular warrior with dreadlocks, her expression fierce and determined. She and her party have been separated from Lai Ping and Elizabeth, and are now facing the dangers of the labyrinth head-on. As the monster swarm approaches, the blonde elf girl in Shaji's party conjures a powerful magic shield. She shouts, "Shield transformation, shield blade," as the barrier materializes around them. But the shield only protects her, Shaji, and one other companion. Lai Ping and Elizabeth are left outside, completely exposed to the horde of shadowy monsters raining down on them. Seeing the betrayal, Lai Ping looks back in shock and confusion, shouting, "Ah, what about us?" From within the safety of the barrier, the ambitious knight Shaji just smiles smugly and says, "I believe you will find a way by yourselves." He has no intention of helping them. The warrior with the red shield confirms the betrayal. She looks back coldly and states, "Who cares about you now? The cooperation is over." Their alliance was merely a matter of convenience. Suddenly, a monstrous creature with rows of razor-sharp teeth, a dragon flea, lunges from the darkness, ready to devour its prey. The elf girl's true intentions are revealed. With a wicked smile, she mutters, "Hee hee, you just stay outside and be bait." Hearing this, the warrior with the shield is shocked, exclaiming, "Glee." She seems to be taken aback by the elf girl's sheer ruthlessness as a shadow monster flies past. A pair of dragon fleas, small but terrifying insect-like monsters, emerge from the swarm, their black-tipped appendages ready to strike. The abandoned party is forced to fight for their lives. The cat girl Lolo engages a monster in close combat. Meanwhile, Shaji reveals his true form, a powerful centaur, and prepares to unleash a devastating attack with his crackling sword. The entire group is swarmed by the dark projectiles, forcing them to defend themselves desperately against the overwhelming onslaught. Shaji channels his power, and his gauntleted hand grips his sword as arcs of lightning surge around the blade. In his centaur form, Shaji unleashes a powerful skill, a blinding thunderbolt flash that cuts through the darkness. Not to be outdone, the warrior with the red shield faces a lunging dragon flea and yells defiantly, "Watch me." She smashes her fiery weapon into the monster, executing a powerful shield strike that sends out a burst of flames. The agile cat girl Lolo also joins the fray, leaping into the air and slashing at the monsters with her sharp claws. With a fierce cry, Lolo uses her assassination technique, a flurry of slashes aimed at the monster's vital points. But the effort is taking its toll. Panting and wounded, Lolo realizes the futility of their struggle. "No matter how I kill these monsters, they seem never-ending," she says. "We will be exhausted at this rate." As she falters, another dragon flea lunges towards the exhausted Lolo and the warrior, its gaping mouth ready to swallow them whole. Shaji moves to counter, executing a swift, clapping thunderback step that generates a wave of electrical energy, blasting away the nearby creatures. His attack hits its mark, and one of the dragon fleas is obliterated, crashing into the ground in a splatter of blood and crackling energy. Though they have defeated many, the floor is littered with monster corpses. However, Shaji's party remains trapped, surrounded, and on the verge of collapse from exhaustion, with no end to the swarm in sight. From a safe distance, Elizabeth calmly observes their struggle. She turns to Lai Ping, letting him witness the raw, selfish nature of the companions he once trusted. "See their true colors?" she asks pointedly. "Do you still want to continue this adventure game with them?" The choice is now his. Having seen his former ally's true nature, Lai Ping makes his decision. He tells Elizabeth, "Forget it. Coming here was to pay back the favor, and as they say, it's time to part ways." He reflects that the quiet farming life might be better for him than the treacherous outside world. Elizabeth gives Lai Ping his next instruction, a cruel test for his former comrades. First make them swell, then determine if they have any value worth saving. This is your third step. Lai Ping understands, and seeing Elizabeth is ready, asks if they are leaving. Elizabeth confidently leads Lai Ping away from the battle, assuring him that the exit is just ahead. Just as they are walking away, one of the shadow monsters swoops down to attack the seemingly defenseless Annie. In a flash, a red light glows in Annie's eyes behind her glasses, suggesting a hidden power is awakening to protect her. The monster's sharp claw strikes, but it doesn't hit Annie. Instead, it hits the small, stuffed bunny doll she carries. The bunny takes the full force of the blow, its fabric tearing as the monster's attack impales it. After the attack, the bunny doll appears magically restored, though its button eyes are now stitched into crosses, as if it has sacrificed itself. Annie holds the transformed doll, looking completely bewildered. What happened? She wonders aloud, unaware of how she was saved. Lai Ping calls out to her, snapping her out of her confusion. "Annie, this way," he urges, and she quickly follows. Elizabeth approaches a seemingly solid wall. With a simple flick of her finger, she creates a ripple in reality, activating a hidden mechanism. She speaks a short incantation in a demonic tongue, commanding the secret passage to open. In response to her command, the shape of a massive gate begins to emerge from the cavern wall before the astonished eyes of Lai Ping and Annie. The illusion fades completely, revealing an enormous, ornately carved door set into the rock, surrounded by glowing crystals. Lai Ping and Annie stare in disbelief. So the exit is a hidden giant door, Lai Ping exclaims, amazed by the revelation. The colossal doors slowly begin to swing open, casting long shadows as a brilliant, warm light spills out from within. Elizabeth stands silhouetted against the blinding light from the doorway and coolly tells the others, "Hurry up and catch up." Back in the darkness, Shaji's eyes burn with desperate fury as he fights for his life. In contrast, Lai Ping's eyes reflect the hopeful light of the open door as he prepares to leave the chaos behind. Lai Ping places a reassuring hand on Annie's shoulder, gently guiding her toward the exit. "Let's go in," he says softly. They step through the gateway into the light, leaving the dark labyrinth behind just as the massive doors begin to slowly swing shut. Meanwhile, the battle rages on in the darkness. Shaji desperately continues to fight off the relentless swarm of dragon fleas. Wounded and desperate, Shaji screams to his remaining companions, "Hurry up and get on my back and hold on." He intends to make a break for the closing door. The warrior and Lolo look on, surrounded by fallen monsters, realizing that Shaji intends to abandon them as well. With the cat girl Lolo clinging to his back, Shaji prepares to charge towards the rapidly closing exit, snarling, "Damn it, they think they can shake us off like this." But it's too late. The giant doors slam shut with a deafening boom, sealing Shaji and his party inside the dark, monster-infested labyrinth forever. On the other side of the door lies not an exit, but an immense treasure room. Lai Ping, Elizabeth, and Annie stand in the center of a vast, tiled hall, dwarfed by massive piles of gold coins, jewels, and priceless artifacts. The dark and dangerous labyrinth was merely a final guard to this unbelievable fortune. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and turn on the bell for more awesome stories.